Don't you think that the beating that you and your mates gave him, was kind of excessive? What advice would you give to that person who's about to kind of enter the dragon's lair type of thing? Do you know if these mob guys that you were in prison with, do they know that they're being talked about on sort of this thing called YouTube
Yeah.
and social media?
Yeah. Some of them guys get down.
For somebody who's never cooperated yourself, would you consider going on anybody's show on here who has cooperated in the past? Rick Foss, thank you very much for joining the show. Real pleasure to have you here. How are you?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all good, thank you. All good. Let's just start, if we can, dive straight into it with your childhood. I've been reading your court notes, your case notes, they're on Google. So if anyone wants to Google Eric Foss Baltimore, then they all come up on the search. And it says, including many other things, obviously, but you had a challenging upbringing. Could you delve into that a little bit? Challenging upbringing?
Well, yeah. Basically, my grandparents, I could say raised me, but like they were old, so it's like basically, my father, I didn't really know my father. The first time I ever met my father, he had escaped from prison. I was about, I believe, 9 years old, and when I met him, he wasn't like the type of, obviously escaped from prison. He wasn't like the type of father like, hey, you get good grades, stuff like that. He was like the type. He started to like immediately try to like groom me into being like like a criminal, like a gangster. How he wanted a tough kid, things like that. He got me high, no on marijuana, but I mean I was 9 years old, so he turned me on to like marijuana, taught me how to like play poker. He was telling me certain things about crimes and things like that, like just like basically grooming me or whatever. And at that age, any kid, no matter what their situation, especially young boys, they're always going to look up to their father like they're some type of hero or something like that. When you figure out down the line, he's basically was a scumbag. But so that was like my situation with him. Now with my mother, my mother's still alive and stuff like that. But like I said, my grandparents raised me. My grandmother was really like my mother. She had a hard upbringing too. See, we're from Baltimore City. I'm actually from the city. So when everything started out, like in my neighborhood, it was. I'm not Italian, but there was a lot of Italian people in my neighborhood growing up, and then the neighborhood started switching over, and it became the black and white. So growing up in them years, it was tough because we didn't have money. Like my family didn't have money. Like when I tell you, when I grew up, like how kids complain about having a small bedroom. I didn't have a bed, let alone a bedroom. My first bed, like that I ever had, was in a juvenile detention center. You know what I mean? Uh, First bed I ever had on the streets, I bought it. So I didn't have stuff like that, and it was just like going back to school after the summer break. You have to hear all the kids talk about their summer vacations with their families, things like that. Like I didn't have none of them stories, so I used to make them up. I didn't even know what the hell I was saying. So that kind of like as you're in these city schools, especially back in them times, that's the 1980s. You figure like you can't go in there with like messed up clothes, and you know what I mean. It's just like because people would make fun of you, you would get bullied and stuff. So and the people like how I was like coming from the situation like I was like in the broken homes, being raised by their grandparents and stuff. We would tend to find each other. We would tend to find each other and develop like a little crew or whatever. So like, we would do like stuff like going to school. Before school, we go steal out of the candy stores, stuff like that, steal cigarettes, sell them out of our locker. Um, Around when I started getting a little bit older, getting into baseball cards, stealing from the baseball card shows. Then by the time I hit about 13, 12, 13, all this started when I was like 9, all the like little petty criminal stuff like the stealing out of stores and stuff. Then when I'm about 12 or 13, we would like we were in the streets. So that's when we got involved in like stolen cars. we would sit down at this park. It was like four of us, and we would take turns. Like we would switch roles or whatever. And it was like nowadays when I look at it, we were doing something good, you know. But like back then, we didn't even know what we were doing. Like two of us would sit out on the bench while the other two were behind a tree with a baseball bat or a crowbar or something. And it never failed. Within 20 minutes, some weirdo would come try to pick up the two of us right here. So we just come from behind the bushes, beat them with a bat or whatever, and take their money. And then that's how we were getting money. So it was just like, you know, and them type of things, like in the neighborhood, that was looked at as cool. You know, we were like, you know, we were like cool. So once it starts progressing, we had found like a stash of cocaine. And this is back, I didn't know how to sell cocaine or nothing. It was a nice stash, you know, from my experience today. You know, I would say, you know, somewhere around a half kilo, something like that. So we find it in these woods. And, you know, by my family, by just being around, growing up in that drug environment where I had a lot of drug addicts in my family. They would always come stay at my grandparents' house because my grandparents would never tell nobody no. I've had prostitutes in my family, stuff like that. So I was always, you know, paying attention. I was always hip to like all the game. You know what I mean? So when we found the cocaine, I was like, I went to the neighborhood bars and I would just stand outside there. And, you know, I knew some of these people because they knew my mother. They knew my uncles. So, I announced that I got drugs or whatever, got cocaine. So start selling it. Well, by the time I figured out how to sell it, and this lady showed me like with a triple beam how to weigh everything and everything like that, I basically ripped myself off, and I had a little bit left. But then, you know, we still flipped that and got into that. So that was like through the early teenage years. Uh, I went to high school. I got thrown out of high school the first year. Didn't go back. So what had happened with that situation was they wanted me to come back to school, but within that time period, I actually started making actual real money for a kid my age, around 15 years old. We went down to like there's this place called Baltimore Street. It's like it used to be really really big, but now it's only like a quarter of the size open. When we were down there, it was about halfway open. It was just it was a bunch of strip clubs. So what we did was we knew a bunch of the strippers because they were our age. Like everybody was underage. This is how crazy this was. They're actual strippers in strip clubs. You know, we're teenagers. The oldest one of us was 17. So we started selling like what people call crack. We call it Ready Rock, cooked up cocaine. So what was happening was we would get the strippers to sell it for us. We'd give them what were called G packs. It was $1,000 worth of dimes. They give us back 600, keep 400. So we had a bunch of strippers like I would meet them before work, say like 3:30 in the afternoon. They would pull up in cabs and stuff outside of my grandmother's house, and I just come out, give them all their stuff. Then when they were done, we go back down and we'd give them more. So we started making a lot of money down there for our age. You know, we're making, you know, some nights $20,000. You know, not all of it's profit, but you're talking between four of us, $7,000-8,000 profit. You know, a night. That was pretty good for our age. So and this was nightly. This was every night. Ran into a couple things, a couple issues where it was like I remember one doorman or whatever. He got jealous, and he was saying how he would just, you know, we were going to pay him or whatever. So we trick him, you know, we're like, okay, yeah, meet us down here, you know, in our neighborhood. He comes and meets us. Long story short, he starts working for us. You know what I mean? Because like we were young. We weren't as wild as these kids are now, because these kids now are just, they're hurting innocent people. They're doing it, you know, they're doing everything. But we were a force. You know what I mean? We played around with the guns and all that kind of stuff, but not to like, it was different times back then. It wasn't including innocent people. If a person's mother or grandmother or something came out and didn't want us in their neighborhood and threatened to call the police, we just left. We didn't firebomb the house. You understand? So
Yeah.
it was a totally different time. So now I started experiencing that kind of money, and you know, I like, even my own mother got involved. Like, why don't you go back to school? Well, at the time, I'm driving around in what did I have back then? Probably like an Infinity or a 5.0, whatever. You know, we're not even old enough to drive. We used to have to go to the when we would buy the cars every month or every 2 months. I forget what it was. We would go pay the dealer, and he'd give us the cardboard tag because we weren't old enough to get insurance, driver's license, and stuff like that. So as that starts to progress, I got into a little bit of trouble. I got put away. I got put away in like juvenile homes for like a month here, 2 months there, one time 6 months. It wasn't like real heavy time or nothing like that. So I get older, and about like I believe it was 1996. I wind up going down to Boca Raton, Florida, because and I'm from Baltimore. I had to go down there, and I stayed down there for a couple of years because I was on the run because an incident happened up here with some other drug dealers, whatever. So, I had a case or whatever. So I stayed down there for a couple of years. My girlfriend actually went to school down there. So as she was, as I was down there, I met a lot of different people. I'm from different cultures. Like I didn't know anything but black and white. Like growing up, I didn't know nothing about Spanish people. I didn't know nothing about Jewish people. I didn't know nothing about nobody. Like that's all that it was, and that's basically now it's a little bit more Hispanic where I'm from, but that's basically what it is where I'm from. So I go down there for a couple years, and I wind up coming back. So when I wind up coming back, I have always had drug connections. So I had a drug connection up in New York. So when I get back around the neighborhood, I was like, back then when I came back, I would dress like real clean cut, like preppy clothes, stuff like that. Real, because I didn't want like a negative appearance, but I was still doing my thing. So I come back and I just start lighting it up around there. I built me my little crew, and we have about 4 or 5 major bars that we're in, and I mean we're crushing it. I mean these bars, I'm doing 60,000 a weekend in these bars. Now, not all of this is profit, but like I mean it's a lot of money. So it's piling up fast. So what happens is you get the narcotics squad for that district. They get on me because I start sticking out like a sore thumb for the first reason because I'm white. You know what I mean? I'm in a black city. So there's some white guys down here that are that have done their thing, but it's majority. Usually the white guys aren't. I mean in them type of positions. Now what happens is this: one night they had sent an informant to try to set me up, and I had seen the guy. We're all outside partying. We're all outside this house, and the bars are closed. I don't have no drugs anyway, and this guy gets out of this white neon, and he comes walking down. He's a fat black dude, and he's like, "Hey, yeah, what's up, B?" and all this stuff. Who's it? Who's Eric? Who's the white boy E? And he's talking about me. So I see this accent. I'm like, "Whoa, this is some type of." It was weird. So I was just like this. I said, "Yeah, I'm Eric. Why? What's up?" So he's starting trying to buy drugs off me. He's like, "Oh, can I get a quarter? Can I get a half?" So look, first off, it don't make sense. You're playing a New York accent, which New York was the main drug hub at that time. Okay, for up where I was from. So why would you be coming all the way down here to get something that small from me? You know what I mean? So I knew something was wrong. So I like nodded to my buddy, to knock him out or whatever, punch him. My buddy went to swing on him, missed. I hit him. He falls down. Long story short, we're stomping the guy out, beating the hell out of him. So a bus, like an MTA bus, comes driving around, and I see the guy laying there shaking. So we got the hell out of there. So later on, I went and I paged my brother, and when I paged my brother was alive at the time because I had 2 younger brothers, both of them have passed now, but he was alive at the time, and I paged him and I said, "Hey, let me know what's going on up at the crackhead Timmy's house or whatever." So when he pages me back, he tells me this crazy story. He's like, "Man, somebody's in trouble. They killed a police officer." I'm like, "Holy shit!" So I'm like, "Well, I'm scared to death at that time." But then the kid Timmy, crackhead Timmy, he was down the police station because the police took a bunch of people down there that when the incident happened, trying to like question him and stuff. I said, "Well, when crackhead Timmy gets back, tell him to page me so I know what's really going on." Well, when crackhead Timmy got back, he told me, he's like, "No, it wasn't a police officer. It was actually an informant that they was trying to set up a controlled drug deal from me or whatever." And when he got beat up so bad he couldn't speak and couldn't say his name. And then they found out because his tongue was like out of his mouth, like his tongue got kicked out of his mouth while he was getting beat up. So with that situation, I was like, it's still a bad situation. So I took my crew and we went up to into the county to the Ramada Inn. We got a couple rooms and we were selling drugs out there for a few months till everything cooled down. Now everything seemed to cool down. I go back around the neighborhood. Now this all happened in the summertime, so now it's around December. Yeah, it was December like 21st or something. I wind up getting raided by the Northeast District Task Force, Narcotics Task Force. So a couple things. When they raid me, I had probably $27,000, $28,000 in cash in there. They put on the paper $6,000. You know what I mean? So they kept themselves. You know, Christmas was a few days away, I guess. You know what I mean? So they kept some money. Um, and as the raid's going on, the main cop he pulls me in the hallway, and he's like, "Do you see that?" So as he takes me out there, he's like, "You see that car out there?" I look out there; it's the same white neon that guy, that informant, had gotten out of. So I'm like, damn, I'm figuring I'm going to get charged. Well, the cop, he looks at me and he tells me, he's like, look, he's like, we can't charge you. We're not going to charge you because we could get sued. You know what I mean? Because they left him hanging out to dry. But he told me, he's like, but if I ever catch you alone, he's like, I'm going to blow your effing head off. So I told him, I said, well, if I ever catch you alone, I'm going to blow your effing head off. So now I was young and cocky. It started basically kind of like a mini war between me and that narcotics cop and his little squad. I mean, anywhere I went, got raided. If I'm driving in any car, they would pull it over, they cut the seats open, they do all kind of shit. I mean, and they wouldn't catch me with nothing. But what happened was they tried to revoke my bail, which for some reason I don't understand, but they tried to have my bail revoked, which it wasn't going to happen because I was showing up at court and stuff. So I show up to court this day. So I go in there in the morning with my lawyer. It's just going to be a real quick proceeding. Well, the narcotics cop is in there. Now he goes up to the state's attorney, and this is the tricks that these people play. They made some fake announcement that they were going to indict my baby's mother, who was pregnant at the time. It had nothing to do with nothing. You know what I mean? Like, you want me? Don't go pinning stuff on everybody else. So they actually made an announcement they were going to indict her. So I flip out a little bit and I cussed at him. I called him a bitch or something. He said something. Next thing you know, we're squared up in the courtroom. We're like this. We're trying to fight each other. The state's attorney has him. My lawyer has me. The judge is beating on the thing, like, calm this down, calm this down. Like right in the middle of a courtroom, right? It was like out of a movie or something. So that like started like that all them incidents started a real bad effect, man. And it was just like eventually with the court cases piling up and the pressure they're putting all around the board and stuff like that, I wind up going to state prison. I wound up I wound up pleading guilty, and I could have beat the case. Okay, my lawyer called me an idiot because they wanted me and they had charged other people and everything like that, and these people couldn't. And my co-defendant even, you know, I mean, he was no good anyway, but he couldn't do the jail time, nothing like that. I felt a certain type of way because it was my heat. They hated me, whatever. So I took a plea deal for 6 years in the state. And part of that deal was nobody else could go to prison, you know what I mean, behind all the stuff involved or whatever. So that's what happened. I wound up going to state prison. And when I was in state prison, like I found out a lot of stuff, like how treacherous things are. So when I'm sitting there, I've been there for a little while. And back when I was back in these days in the 90s, there wasn't all the witness intimidation, there wasn't all these laws that there is now. So when they were running an investigation on you back then, if the investigation came up with nothing, they would actually give you all the stuff that they investigated you for. They would find you, they send it to you to let you know what happened, you know, and what they came up with, which was nothing. Well, I'm sitting on my bunk doing my prison time, not bothering nobody. I get this big packet of legal mail. So I'm like, wonder what this is. Well, it was an investigation that had just closed on me. My co-defendant, who I'm sitting here, I told him, you're not built for jail. I'll take a deal where nobody goes to prison. You know, you don't got to worry about it, even though he was guilty as me, if not more so. And he actually got caught with drugs. I didn't. So I sat here and did all that. And when I get this paperwork, he was sitting there telling on me, not for our drug stuff or anything. What had happened was about a year or so prior, 2 years prior, something like that. Not that could have been 2 years, about a year prior, about a year and some change. An incident happened where somebody robbed me. They pistol whipped me, robbed me, took like whatever, took like 9 ounces of coke from me. So I went down there the next day and I shot the dude. So when I shoot the dude, I don't know if he's alive. I don't know if he's dead. We all assume he's dead. So my co-defendant is actually telling the police this while I'm locked up. And this has nothing to do with anything, or not while I'm locked up, while we're on the street. So what happened to clear me on that is they actually found the guy who got shot. So when they went to the guy who got shot, they showed him my picture and everything. So is this the guy who shot you? He said, no. He's like, I've never seen that guy in my life, which we know each other. We know, it's all water under the bridge, but we had a little war or whatever in the streets and stuff. But I mean, I got to give the guy credit for that. So they had to end that investigation. So I'm just like, God damn, man, this is just treacherous. You know what I mean? How people will, do messed up things to you while, but I mean, there's no honor amongst thieves. So I wind up I did 4 years on that sentence, on that state sentence. And like when I would go to prison, like certain things, like, and it's happened every time I went to prison. It's like, I don't know. It's like, I kind of find it weird that like some people, they can't behave themselves on the street. They'll like shoot their best friend in the head. But then when they go to prison, they're scared to steal a tomato. So like when I go to prison, I'm in prison. So when I did that state prison time, I started a pre-release, got in trouble, wound up getting thrown out of there, got thrown out of another jail, wound up in a medium, had to work my way all the way back down. So that's why I wound up doing 4 years on that sentence, because normally first time you'll normally do about 2.5 years on a nonviolent crime, 18 months, 2.5 years on 6. But I wound up doing 4 years. So I get released. I get released in 2003. Now, basically right away, I walk smack into a federal indictment. My buddy, was messing around or whatever, selling coke or whatever. I wasn't even back into it at this point. But what happened was he went to a bar. Now, as he's in a bar, there's this kid that he sells cocaine to that's in small amounts, like quarter ounces, half ounces, stuff like that, little petty stuff. Well, the kid wound up getting busted. So now the kid wants to set my buddy up. So when he comes to meet my buddy at a strip club, he brings a guy with him. My buddy thinks that the guy is just a customer. Well, the guy's an undercover cop. So here's what my buddy does. It's a fatal mistake. And this led to a huge federal investigation. My buddy, when the informant, the kid he knows, goes to take a piss, my buddy slips the cop his number, thinking that he's a good customer or whatever. He's basically stealing the guy's customer and don't know it's a cop. So from that point, within basically a week, the guy's buying half ounces, quarter ounces. Now he's buying eighth of keys, 4.5 ounces, quarter keys, 9 ounces. So he's doing that. Now, as my buddy's dealing with him, we had another friend named Eric, the same first name as me. So they're surveillancing my friend, and I'm coming around. Now, you remember, I'm only a couple months out of prison for selling drugs. I'm a known guy in this area for being a drug dealer, cocaine especially. And I'm pulling up in an Escalade, stuff like that. I still had money from back before, and I had my own car cleaning business and stuff. But I'm pulling up with jewelry on. I'm younger, Escalades, everything like that. So one day, my buddy's on the phone with the cop, and the cop's asking him for whatever, however much coke and how many pills, ecstasy pills, or whatever. And my buddy says, "Yeah, I'm waiting on Eric." Now, he's really not waiting on me. But when the police have the surveillance of me always coming over there, us going out to clubs and stuff, who do they assume Eric is? Obviously me. So now, as that went on, I wound up getting back into drugs. I mean, I think I wound up going getting a half key and then buying like a key here and there. And I did wind up getting back into it and selling coke. But no matter what situation was, I would have probably gotten indicted anyway, even if I didn't, just because of that miscue right there of them assuming certain things, because they assumed a few things on that case. So around August of '03, they raid a bunch of houses on one night. So I'm living in Pennsylvania, or right around Pennsylvania, like right around the Maryland PA line. And what happens is my brother, my youngest brother, he's around our neighborhood in the city, our old regular house. And he calls me and he's like, hey, he's like, the police are raiding the house. I don't even live there. I know there's nothing there, but I'm in the area because I'm down there that night. I said, man, I'm coming around there because I'm going to cuss them out. I think it's just the regular cops or whatever. So I get there, and it's just like, it wasn't the regular cops. There was a bunch of white cops. You know what I mean? It was like one black cop with a mask on. So it's not the regular narcotics, but I've been gone for 4 years, so maybe it's changed. I don't know what's going on. So they handcuffed me, whatever, and I know they're not going to find nothing, and they don't. So as they're getting ready to leave, they got to unhandcuff us, and they take my truck. They jump in my Escalade and take that. So I'm like, how the hell they do that? So I'm cussing the guy out as he goes out the door. He's an older guy. He looked like the guy off Law and Order, that show. And he turned around and he pulled that badge out. And he said, listen, Eric, he's like, you've never dealt with nothing like us before. I said, still don't know what he means. So I'm like, get out of here, whatever. He's like, okay. He's like, we'll be back. So I run to my lawyer's office the next day, trying to get my truck back. So as I take him all the paperwork and everything like that, I hear he makes a phone call, and I hear the conversation. I hear how it's going and stuff like that. So it was about a 10-minute conversation. Then he hangs up, and he's like, well, look, you can get the truck back, but that, was there a bunch of houses raided last night? And I was like, yeah, a bunch of them. He's like, look, they're not disclosing to me what this is because it's still sealed. It's still sealed or whatever. And but it's definitely a wiretap drug investigation. So he's like, you're not indicted yet. He's like, and you can get your truck back and not ever be indicted, but they will want to talk to you. I said, what do you mean? I said, look, we're not going to get into all that kind of stuff. Fuck them. Fuck that truck. So he's like, all right. So as I'm leaving, he's like, Eric, get prepared to go to prison. I'm like, what are you talking about? I was like, dude, it's like you're wishing bad luck on me. He's like, no. He's like, I know how these things work. He's like, you're not indicted, but they're going to indict you. I'm like, yeah, whatever. So 2 weeks later, get a knock on the door. I look out the window. It's the U.S. Marshals. They're like, come on out, Eric. You've been indicted. I'm like, what? They're like, don't try to run. You know what I mean? So they weren't going crazy, nothing like that. That's the thing about the feds, because this was straight federal, had no state involved. The feds don't have to come in there, and they don't care if you flush your body down the toilet. Once they come with the indictment, they got enough. They don't need no more. I mean, anything else is just collateral damage, at that point. So they wind up locking me up. So I sit there as I go there. They take me to the federal courthouse or whatever to get booked. I'm figuring it's all the same thing as like the state where you would get a bail review, stuff like that. Well, it just didn't work that way. They wound up detaining me, and when I looked at the charges and they read the charges off, this is with finding nothing. I was indicted for over 50 kilos of cocaine, which the statute is 5 kilos or more is a 10-year mandatory minimum maximum life sentence. And then they work your drug amount. Now it's gotten more lenient now on like the levels on the guidelines and stuff, but back then it was more harsh. So they worked my drug amount up to 50 to 150 kilos of cocaine. So I like, it's being caught with nothing. So this is like mind boggling. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I sit there fighting the case because I just couldn't, I'm not going to plead guilty to all that stuff that I don't know, I didn't have or anything like that. So basically what happens is, as the case goes on, I'm the last person standing. I'm ready to go to trial. Now, here's how smart the feds are. Now, as I told you, I was indicted for the indictment's over 5 kilos of cocaine. They indicted me to that statute for the 10 to life. Well, I came up with a plan that I was going to go to trial, and I wasn't going to try to prove that I wasn't a drug dealer, but I was going to prove beyond a reasonable doubt I'm not responsible for over 5 kilos, because it's kind of hard to prove at trial beyond a reasonable doubt. See, the feds work on preponderance of the evidence on like plea bargains and stuff like that. So basically what happens is, like I said, they're not stupid. They wound up at the last minute. They wound up superseding the indictment. Like basically not worried about that indictment. They wound up indicting me again for just any amount of drugs. You know what I mean? So no matter what, I would get convicted. You know what I mean? So I'm not going to be able to walk out, and I'm still going to be rolling the dice with my life. So we wound up fighting still. and we we agreed to have an evidentiary hearing, which would have been and like I said, words mean a lot, because in their memorandum they said that they were going to prove by preponderance of the evidence at the evidentiary hearing I was responsible for over 5 kilos. Now we had put in the plea bargain, no, it's beyond a reasonable doubt what you got to prove. And just when they filed their memorandum, they were using different circuit laws and things like that. And we used Fourth Circuit law that said that, you're only responsible for what you did. It's not for the whole conspiracy, whatever, unless you're the head guy on the conspiracy. A bunch of law mumbo jumbo, double talk, But it worked out in our favor because they conceded. So they conceded to me pleading guilty to just 1.5 kilos of powder cocaine. Now, that's a whole different statute. That's 5 years mandatory minimum and a 40-year maximum. I wound up, the guidelines wound up being declared advisory back then by the time I went to get sentenced, because that was 2005 when I got sentenced. And it could work in your favor, and it also could work against you. It kind of worked against me, because if they'd had used the mandatory guidelines, I could have proven everything and been around the 8-year mark. And that's what we asked for. Well, the prosecutors, they're jumping up and down like, God, like, isn't 8 years good enough? They're jumping up and down. They're acting like I'm some type of, I don't know, because they didn't prove nothing. But they're jumping up and down. They're screaming basically for 16 years. Well, what the judge did was he met in the middle and gave me 12 years and 1 month. So where that kind of screws me is because I tried to do a 2255, but I can't really appeal it because I didn't lose. I argued for 8, they argued for 16. He gave 12. You know what I mean? They didn't win, I didn't win. He met right in the middle. So I wound up getting the 12 years. So when I did that, they sent me to a federal prison in West Virginia. This place called Gilmer. Now, when I went to Gilmer, this place was like, it was a new prison just built. The police didn't know how to run it yet. So it was just like, it was wide open. I mean, dude, there's some scams that happened there. Like we kind of scammed the commissary for like almost $300,000 because they didn't know what was going on. Like, we had people who worked in commissary, and we'd fill out our sheet, and like, say I would put on there, I'd buy $30 worth of stuff. Well, I'd buy a bunch of boxes of oatmeal, cheap stuff, but the people in the back, they see my list, they know what to do. They would take cartons of cigarettes, because you were allowed to smoke back then. They'd put a bunch of packs of cigarettes in the oatmeal. So now I'm paying $3 for a carton of cigarettes. You know what I mean? So that was going on with a bunch of people. By the time they did the inventory, the only thing they couldn't steal was the stamps, because people would have got locked up or whatever. It was like $300,000 that the prison lost. So on that yard, it was just like, there was like a lot of gambling, there was a lot of drugs, a lot of things like that. I mean, when you walked on this yard, it was just like wide open. I mean, you would have a blackjack table here, a poker table here, a guy right here selling wine, a guy right here selling weed, a guy right here selling candy, this one selling stamps, people over here playing softball. It was just wide open. And look, I like action, so I got involved in that, in the gambling and things like that. I put out a ticket. What I mean by a ticket is, that's like the when you're the bookie taking all the sports bets, stuff like that. And I had a couple poker tables and a blackjack table. And I mean, when I'm saying these things, like, there's a lot of money. Like, look, one morning in 2009, I think it was my best, but wound up being my worst day, but my best take-in day on my ticket, I took in $7,000. Just on NFL football, on the early games, took in $7,000, which our currency was in stamps. So, anywhere you go, you're going to have a different type of currency. But like, in the lower securities, they use like fish and stuff like that, which don't make sense to me. It's too bulky. But yeah, so like, this was a lot of money. This is a lot of money exchanging hands. We would get stuff like, I knew some guys get some stuff in, like heroin and weed, stuff like that. So we'd sell that in the prison, and we were making a lot of money. But then at the end of the day, you also got it's just like in the streets, like, you got your COs, who I would equivalent to just like regular police, like out here, like regular police officers really ain't gonna bother nobody unless they're called, anything like that, or an incident happens. But then you got your higher ups, your SIS, actual investigators and stuff like that. And my name just kept coming across their board. Like they couldn't stand me. Like they were just like, you know what I mean? Because I don't know. I guess I was cocky, whatever. But what happened in that jail was I had one night where I wound up my cell buddy was getting out of lockup after like 30 days, 40 days, and I was throwing him a party. So I got like 5 gallons of really good wine. So we're all in my cell. He gets out. We're all partying, smoking weed, drinking, and I mean this shit was really good. So what happens is, as I'm sitting there, there's this kid walking around, and he's walking around the unit. And in any prison you go to, you're gonna have your people, unit snitches. Got that. People say that about him, whatever. So he looked in the cell like 3 times. So I said, like this. I said, man, I said, next time he walks by this cell, I was like, I'm gonna snatch him in here. So he comes walking back by, looks in. I snatch him in there. So I start reading him the riot act. He's getting all scared, and it's a bunch of us in there. So I made my buddy. I told him to pour him a big coffee mug of the wine, and I made the guy guzzle it or whatever. He got drunk off his ass, so I sent him back on the tier. So, I mean, it was a wild night. So the CO had seen what was going on and how drunk I was, and he came up to me. It's not his fault; it was my fault. He told me, he said, "Look, it's only however much time left. Just lock in yourself for the night." And sleep it off or whatever. I don't want to get you locked up or nothing. So I agreed to that. I go in there. I'm not even in there for 5 minutes. I walk back on the unit. So he had to call the code. So now, as they call the code, I won't cuff up on the tier. So I'm like, I'm going to walk to the lieutenant's office, cuff up, whatever. No big deal. It's a drinking shot. I'll be out in 30 days, 45 days. So what happens when we get to the lieutenant's office, I guess it was like a rookie type guy or whatever. He goes to give me the breathalyzer. And as he's doing it, he puts his hand out. He's like, "Oh, I know you weren't drinking alone." Like basically want me to rat on somebody or something. So I smack his hand. When I smack his hand, the breathalyzer busts. And it was like one of them digital ones, one of them expensive ones. It wasn't cheap. They wound up charging me. I'll tell you about that. They wound up charging me $800 for that. So I start tussling with the COs or whatever. So next thing you know, there was this big lady. She was like a nurse or something, but she was a big woman, big strong woman. She wound up tackling me. She got me down or whatever. So I wake up the next day on lockup. So I don't know what happened because I was so blackout drunk. I'm just remembering bits and pieces. I remember something. I don't know what happened. And the thing was, I don't have a shot to read what happened because they sent my situation. They sent that out to the United States Attorney to see if they wanted to pursue charges. For the malicious destruction and assault on police. So you have to wait. You have to wait till they decline it or pick it up or whatever to even find out what you're doing. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm in the dark. I don't know what's going on. Now the SIS guy walks by my cell. He's like, "FOSS." So I come on. He's like, I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, "Yeah, got your ass this time. You really fucked up." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "You assaulted my officers. Yeah, you're done." So now I'm sitting on that. I'm like, "Gee, what happened? Did I beat one of them? What really happened?" Well, a cool CO took a couple days, man. I was so stressed out, and a cool CO wound up telling me, like, "Man, it's not that serious." You know what I mean? He's like, "Nah." He told me basically what happened, what he heard happened, and then I wound up getting a cellie who came from the compound who told me what he heard happen. So, and plus with the little bits and pieces, I put it together. So the FBI declined to pick it up. They send it back. So I wound up getting my shot or whatever. So I go in front of the DHO guy. Now he's a disciplinary hearing officer. So what he does is he's over like a thing like this, like he wasn't physically there. He was like over Zoom or whatever you want to call these things nowadays. So he holds up a magazine and he shows me the price of the breathalyzer, and it was $399. So he charged me $400, which was fair. I broke it. You know what I mean? So I wind up getting my sanctions. I go back to my cell on lockup. Now my counselor comes walking by about an hour later, and he comes to my door. He's like, "FOSS." I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" He's like, "Yeah, they charge you $400 for that breathalyzer, huh?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah." He's like, "Yeah, don't worry about that. It's not 400." I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool." He's like, "Yeah, now it's 800." And he walks off. So I'm like, "What?" So on their own, they taxed me $400. So At this point, they're sending me out of the prison and they're sending me to the penitentiary because they did everything since I was in there for nonviolent crimes. Like my points don't ever really get that high, to be penitentiary points or whatever. But they did everything possible to get me to penitentiary points because they hated me so much. So at this point, and now the penitentiaries in federal prison, they're not no joke. A lot of them. So like I'll give you an example. Like there was a guy on the cell up top of me. He was one of them supposed tough gang members or whatever on the yard where we were at. He wound up hitting somebody with a lock, and I heard him in the vent when the case manager told him he's getting sent to the penitentiary. He started crying. Man, I can't go. Please, please, please. So the SIS guy winds up walking by my cell after I get designated. And they're not even supposed to tell you where you're going, but he was so happy. He's just like, yeah, Foss. He's like, you're going to Bloody Sandy, which is Big Sandy. He called it Bloody Sandy because that's a gang yard. Like it's a bunch of gangs on that yard. It's a newer penitentiary. It was built in '03. So with these newer penitentiaries, they didn't have nothing in there. They didn't have weights and stuff like that, like the older places like Allenwood and stuff like that. At the Lewisburgs with the old mob guys and all that. That's soft. You know what I mean? That's like nursing homes. Big Sandy and Hazleton, these type of places over here on the Mid Atlantic region, East Coast, whatever you want to call it. That these places are jumping. So they send me there. So I get there, and when I get there, the jail's locked down because the Muslims and the Crips, they get into it in front of the chow hall, and everything in the penitentiary. It's not you can see it, but very rarely will you see a fist fight. It's not fist fights. Like the first night there, I'm in a cell by myself because it was just an open cell. So I wound up getting in a cell by myself during this time that the jail's locked down. So I'm sitting there, and my first night there, all I hear is on the floor. It's people sharpening knives. Because when these doors open, and this never fails, this is what happened to Whitey Bulger. They know every time a new bus comes in to the penitentiary, they know who's coming. Because we have ID numbers, our last three of the area we're from. Like I'm 037, that's Maryland. So basically, and the Bureau of Prisons is so small. Everybody knows everybody. You can't escape. You can't escape it. So when these doors hit, somebody's going to get hit. It's just how it's going to be. Like when the bus first pulled up, it was like 40 some of us on the bus. About only half of us went to the compound. The other half said no, they're not going. They went right on protective custody, and they'll even sometimes get touched down there because these guys know how to slip out of their cuffs. It's crazy. So you hear all that stuff now. Now the jail opens up. Somebody does get hit, but it's not worthy of like locking it down for another month, nothing like that. It's not a war. Like that's the times when they'll lock things down is like when two cars are going at it, stuff like that. If some rat or something shows up and he gets hit by his old gang or something like that, they're not too worried about that because that's there's not going to be repercussions and stuff like that. So the jail opens up now. My first day on the yard, like walking out to the yard, I get all my stuff. You see what type of person I am. I'm not like no racist, none of that kind of no kind of gang shit or nothing like that. I'm from the streets. I'm a street dude. Don't get that twisted. You know what I mean? Because a lot of times here's where people get it misconstrued. Like a lot of times people will follow their lead. Them guys, like these guys coming in there, yeah, bro. These guys weren't nothing on the street. They were drug addicts that did something stupid and then wound up in prison and they're acting like they're these big tough guys or something like that. Look, I was a street guy. I came up in a lot of institutions. I was at Baltimore City Jail when I was a kid, stuff like that, as a white guy, so I had to, I had to fight. I had to do my thing. So it wasn't like no situation like that. So, but I'm still different than these guys. When I first get out, I'll go to walk around the track. It's like something you would only believe on the Discovery Channel. Like you see all the white guys, they're sitting there, bunch of tattoos all over their face. And mind you, at this time, I had never seen a white gang member in my life. Not a real one anyway. You know what I mean? I've seen the guys in the FCI faking, you know what I mean? But like with this shit, all tattoos all over their heads and face. So you got them in the corner doing this. You get like the Serranos, which is Southsiders, because they were deep on that yard. You got Serranos and Norteños out there in LA or whatever. Now, the Serranos were on that yard because Norteños and them didn't get along or whatever. So you got them all in the corner, like this. Then you got the black guys with their pants pulled all the way up, all tight shirt on, shit looking. Everybody's just like, it just looks like people are just looking for trouble. You know what I mean? So I spin a lap. I see a guy who knows me. He's what's up, E? I'm like, hey, what's up, Ray? He's a black dude I knew from DC. So we spin a lap. He tells me a little bit about the place. So you get in there, and then it sucks because it's just high tension. You know what I mean? It's very high tension, and people just look for any reason to just like, a person doesn't like you, they don't like the type of person you are, anything like that. They look to bake a cake on you. Like I've seen like situations where and a lot of kids get tricked, because what they'll do is they'll come in, like I've seen this situation play out before. A kid will come in, he's not a gang member, he's not nothing. Now, one of these gang members get a hold of him, tell him, yeah, you join us, whatever. Now, what they do is they wind up getting the kid to go get heroin or whatever on a bill from, like, say the Mexicans. Say the Mexicans. I'm just saying it's hypothetical. So they'll send this kid to the Mexicans to run up a bill. They'll be like, yeah, bro, because I'm waiting on this, and I'll take care of it this way and this way. So now this kid goes and runs up this big bill, which will get into the thousands very fast. So he's bringing his stuff back to them dudes. They're getting high, all getting high together. They love him. Yeah, brother. They're getting them drunk, all that kind of stuff. So now, time for the tab to be paid. He don't have the money to get the kid because he was lying to the kid the whole time. Bro, don't worry about it. I'll go talk to the shot caller, the Mexicans. This kid's like, okay, cool, man. So now this guy goes to the shot caller Mexicans, and he spins a whole nother story. What's going on, bro? I hear this kid owes you some money. Yeah, homie, he owes this, that. Okay, bro, I'm going to take care of it. So then they'll wind up stabbing this kid. You understand? So the gang members go back, whack, stab him. He's gone. His story don't count for nothing. They give the Mexicans a few fucking pints of shine, and everybody's partying on the yard. Everybody thinks that everything went down correctly. Just straight treachery. That's all that it is. So like, when you go in there, you'll meet up with people that you'll get along with and stuff. So like, say we're going to the chow hall and we're going to eat, and when we go to leave, I don't care if we're done ahead of time and you're still eating. We gotta wait for you. You know what I mean? Because we can't just roll out. Next thing you know, you get up to leave by yourself, and so some crew just hops on you. You know what I mean? Because they made something up about you. See, a lot of the stuff is like, it's just like you'll see on the YouTube stuff. A lot of stuff is made up on people. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like a popularity contest. It's like high school, and it's just like people know what they can do. It's like you'll get these guys coming in here. They'll just shave their head. They're from the East Coast. You know what I mean? They're from the East Coast. They're not skinheads. They're not in these gangs, stuff like that. And like, I'm not knocking the guys who really are in that shit, because there is some of them that actually stand on their coats. And listen, a lot of them are very dangerous, because you're getting in there with people who got not, like I said, there were nothing on the street. So when they get in there, they start getting this, power in prison, because they'll do anything because they don't got nothing to lose on the street. So they'll sit there and they like it. You know what I mean? They like it so people can fall into them traps. I've seen so many things. I've seen people catch more time. It's very dangerous like that. Then with that whole thing with Big City, I actually stayed. I did my thing. I gambled, sold drugs, whatever. All the same shit. But it wasn't like I wasn't there as long as I was at Gilmer. And there it's harder to get in trouble. The only thing that the people in the penitentiaries want that are running, they just want peace. Like back then, we had a guy. He was like an Eskimo. Now he got like $10,000 a month from oil on his property or whatever. Now you figure he's living great in prison, right? That's a lot of money. He didn't even have a soup in his locker. That's how much drugs he did. So what would happen is he'd always owe a bunch of money, but then he'd always get a dirty urine. So when he would actually get a dirty urine and they'd put him on lockup, listen to this. The counselor will walk down as soon as he found out he's on lockup, take a bunch of the green forms where he could send money, and he'd slide him under the door because he knows this guy owes a bunch of people money. So he just wants him to pay his money so there's no war on the yard. You know what I mean? That's how that works there. So it's easier to stay out of the way. It's easier to not get in trouble unless you're doing something really violent or really stupid. There and like stupid always takes the cake, especially with the white guys. The white guys that they'll tell you, the white guys put on the best show in the penitentiary. Like the white guys and the Mexicans, they put on the best show because it's always like a thing. Like I said, just people just like that trouble. They like that drama. They just But I wound up getting out of there, and I went to this place called Schuylkill. Now, Schuylkill was a medium security. It's in Pennsylvania. Now, with the Schuylkill thing, is it's like high school too, but it was a different high school class. This was like mob guys. These were all the mafia guys. I mean, there were probably 60 of them, 70 of them in there, at that time. And I mean, they were like the Gossip Girls. You know what I mean? They're like the Gossip Girls. Now, there's some cool ones. Like I met some really cool ones. Like, and when I say mob guys, I just mean people associated with it also. Like when I say that, I'll throw like a Jimmy Coonan, from the Irish Westies. Like Jimmy Coonan, I used to eat pizza with him. You know what I mean? Jimmy Coonan was on my tier. So like I'll throw him in there with that. But like Tony Aiello from the Pizza Connection, that was my celly. So, I was cool with a lot of them, you know what I mean? But like with them guys, I learned a lot about them. Like, dude, it's just like, it's a whole like jealousy thing, treachery thing. Like you'll see it here on YouTube, like with the mob YouTube stuff and all. It's so phony. I mean, it's the same way. Listen, it's the same way in prison, except for they're actually really in prison. These guys didn't, these guys are sitting in there like Mark Reiter, them type of guys. These guys are doing life in prison. It's a sad situation. They're like lost souls. But I got to become friends with them. You know what I mean? A lot. So I learned a lot about like that type of lifestyle and just how treacherous that is, because it's that whole life. And with them guys, it's all hypocrisy. That's all it is. Everything's hypocrisy. They move the goalposts for everything. Like you got the situations now, like on YouTube with the John Gotti Jr. thing. Like obviously you've heard about that. Well, I've known about that for many years. Didn't take Joey Merlino to say that. Everybody's known about that. And here's the thing. Look, I don't judge none of these people, and like I do see people judging the people. Listen, man, a lot of these guys were facing real life in prison. You know what I mean? And John Gotti Jr. was facing death penalty, whatever. I don't know what's going through that man's mind at that time. You know what I mean? But I do know what the facts are afterwards. And I do know the hypocrisy of things. Because when we were in Schuylkill, there was an Albanian guy named Zeth Visanic. Big guy, nicest guy in the world, but he's tough. Anyway, he used to hang with the Italians and stuff like that. Well, it came out that he had did the same thing John Gotti Jr. did, proffered or whatever. And he actually had his co-defendant that got a bunch of time. Zeth even got 17 years. And he was writing them back and forth. His co-defendant even sent a letter. Said, look, he didn't do nothing to hurt nobody, nothing like that. But let me tell you something. Do you think them Italians would talk to him in there? No. And you know who one of the Italians was? Richie Gotti. Richie Gotti. Gotti Jr.'s cousin. You know what I mean? He was one of the Italians. He would not talk to Zeth because Zeth had sat down. Even though Zeth's co-defendant said it, everybody said, look, he never hurt nobody, nothing like that. Zeth was a nice guy. Now, there was people on the unit. There was people on the unit that did, behind closed doors. Because, like I said, it's like high school. Nobody wants to act like they're the ones. It's a popularity contest. But it's just like the same thing like on here. It's just like with the Gotti names and, all that kind of stuff. Like, look, John Gotti Sr. was the one who, he's the one who kept it real. He's the one who was the real gangster. He was the one, but that don't mean the whole family is. You know what I mean? They're holding these people to this, to the, to that level, and they're just not. But, like in there, like in Schuylkill, I had issues, set up a couple times. Like you got to watch inmates, man. Like inmates are always trying to like either get rid of you if you're a threat, or if you have something, they know where your stamps are at, which is our currency. They'll try to get you locked up so they can steal them. There's always usually a head orderly, and most head orderlies are rats. You know what I mean? They work for the counselor. Now some of them, aren't really that bad, But you get the ones that now they're rats and they're drug addicts. They're basically like crooked cops. You know what I mean? Um, and they'll try to set you up. We had an incident in Schuylkill where me and Tony Aiello, we were cell buddies, but he got messed up with this operation, and plus he, the cell was always messy, stuff like that, because he had a lot of stuff in there and stuff, and he's like in his 70s at the time, good old dude. Now, so they split us up. The case manager split us up, which I think was done by the unit orderly. Probably went to the counselor, had us split up. Okay, so once we get split up, I'm in a whole nother cell. It took a few days. All of a sudden, somebody, when Tony was in the yard, they didn't take nothing from, I don't want to say that. Nobody extorted him. Nobody did nothing like that. They stole. They broke in his locker and stole 2 of his gold chains. Okay. So it's like 4:00 count. After 4:00 count, Tony comes to my cell. He's like, they got me. I'm like, Tony, what the hell are you talking about? He's like, my chains. Somebody broke in my locker, stole my chains. Now, he's from Sicily. This guy, he barely talks English. He's in his 70s, but he's still a tough old dude. So I flip out, you know what I mean? So I'm going nuts. So I come down there, wind up within the process of me going around trying to figure all this shit out and go get at people, wind up getting one of his chains back. And then, going to get the other shit back, here's how crazy it is and how bad these people are. I go out to the yard to work out in the morning time. So I go out there. A guy, Ray Argentina, he held the weights for me. Then I held them for like Richie Gotti and them. And then while they're lifting weight, I do my cardio or whatever. So it was a backyard recall. I grab my bag, my workout bag. I walk up to where all the mob guys and stuff hang at, and sit there, talk to them before we get called in. So as I'm sitting there, this dude Frankie, he's a little wiry, crazy dude. Lucchese, he hung around Lucchese or whatever. Frankie DePietro. So he sits here. He's like, "Hey, what's that in your bag?" I'm like, "What?" He reaches down, pulls out a big ass sharpened like screw, like to be like a makeshift knife, like something I wouldn't even. Come on. First off, we're in an FCI. I don't even need that knife. But somebody actually, while I was in the yard working out, actually had the balls to put that in my bag so that when I go back through the detector, beep beep beep, I get caught with a knife. That way I go to lockup, get thrown out of jail. Crazy part is I was going home in like 4 or 5 months. Imagine if that would have happened. And look, that even though the jail and the officers and DHO, even though they know you got set up, they don't care. They still find you guilty, because we had an incident just a few months before that where my cell buddy, his name was Larry, he's an older dude, and we had a ticket together and everything like that. Well, he had some drug addict holding his stamps like a dummy. So this dude figures out a way to get Larry out of there. Somebody went, I seen they locked down the compound and they locked Larry up at Chow. I'm on the unit. I see it all happening. I go in the cell, rip up all the master sheets for the tickets, all the printouts, everything like that. Everything's gone because it took them like a half an hour to come to the cell. I know they're coming. Do you know they walk in there and first thing the cop says, the police was in on it. He might have been the one who actually put it there, but I'm thinking like the orderly put it there. He's like, yeah, ain't no knives in here, is there? I was like, no, there ain't no knives in here. Walks right under Larry's locker, goes, whoa, what's this? Pulls out a toothbrush with a razor blade taped to it. Like, come on. The first things first. If we had that in there, I just told you, I sat there for a half an hour ripping up master sheets and everything like that, flushing them. I could have took that apart in 1 second. You know what I mean? Could have took that apart in 1 second. So the police actually either put that in there or whatever. So I wound up getting locked up for it. And me and Larry are cellies. So Larry still had like 10 years left on his sentence. And he knew that it was put in there for him. So he wound up taking that charge. And, even he pled guilty to it, even though it really wasn't his, but it wasn't mine either. He was set up. So I wound up beating that, getting found not guilty, and then got out. And then that incident, the next month or 2 later, 3 months later, the incident with Tony happens, and they tried the same thing to me, putting a knife in there. It was just like that whole place, like the whole Bureau of Prisons is just like treachery. You know what I mean? It's not like nothing to it's not good people. You know what I mean? Like you'll hear like, oh, good dudes and stuff like that. You meet some decent people, man, but a lot of it isn't, man. It's people just cutting people's throats. So, you know.
That's brilliant. We've been on it for an hour, and I don't think I've asked a question yet.
Oh, shit.
So you've done a great job. But if we can, I've got a script here, and I'll basically throw that out the window, and I'll try to go like free roll. But that's cool.
Right.
Your childhood is sounds absolutely heartbreaking. If we go back to kind of your childhood, do you think that impacted? How do you think that impacted your childhood? I guess it's a difficult question to answer, but
yeah, no, I got a perfect answer for you. I'll tell you what impacted my childhood: adults, and hearing adults talk about me. You know what I mean? It wasn't really kids. It would be like certain things like you. I would hear parents talking just because of who my family was and stuff like that. I would hear parents like talk about, yeah, don't let your kid play with him. He'll steal. He'll do like shit that I would never even do. Look, I was getting stolen from. You know what I mean? My entire life. So as a little child like that, that puts a chip on your shoulder. You know what I mean? It's the adults, man. That's why like when I see kids in certain situations out here and stuff like that, I don't harp down on these kids, man, because I know how I felt. It put a chip on my shoulder where I was like this. I was like, yeah, I'll get you back. And I got them back. I'll say what I did. A lot of them I slept with their daughters. You know what I mean? A lot of their kids, their sons, I got involved in drugs. Not as an adult. Let me just say, I was a kid. I was younger than these people. You know what I mean? But like I'm saying, so that these adults saying this kind of stuff, but it's just like it puts a chip on your shoulder, and it's affected me to this day. Yeah, 100%.
I guess when you look at your childhood, it's no surprise to you, I guess, to me and anyone who's listening, that you ended up in prison for sort of quite a long time, really. Do you agree?
Yeah. Well, but I don't want to use that as an excuse either. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to use it as an excuse either. It's just that,
No.
it just happened. But listen, yeah, basically I was born with a warrant. I was going to prison.
Yeah.
I was going to prison. That just is what it is.
I think your story is probably the most heartbreaking one I've ever like come across, as in face to face spoken to someone. So, but yeah, like you say, you don't dwell on it. It is what it is, isn't it? You just got to play the card you're dealt, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and also let me say this. Let me say this though. I know a lot of people that had better lives than me, what people would consider better lives than me, and they're not here no more. They're dead. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They wound up shooting dope. They wound up doing something stupid. They wound up committing suicide. These things. So like, you got to look back at certain things and be like, okay, when adversity hits me, you know what I mean? We're in my ballpark. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So some people
I get it.
been able to deal with the adversity. So I can't sit here and say, that it's been, it's built to something that's where I've been able to survive a lot of bad things.
No, I get that. So you're kind of hardened to it. That story of the fat dude who was a cooperator and tried to stitch you up out on the street.
I
Because
mean, listen, when you're in, I mean, look, I'm this type of person. Like, I'm not. Look, I like to smile. I like to have fun and stuff like that. But if I gotta raise my hands to you, or I gotta come at you in a threatening way, I'm not trying. I'm not playing with you. This isn't the UFC. You know what I mean? So I hear guys on here talk about fighting. Fighting's a sport. You know what I mean? If I sit here and I get mad enough to want to do something to you, I'm going to want to do it.
So effectively, this guy came over. You knew he was talking shit. You told him to F off, and he continued to talk rubbish. And in the end, you and your mates got tired of him talking bollocks, and you just dealt with it in that way.
Yeah. What does bollocks mean? Like talking bullshit? I've heard that.
Oh yeah, talking bullshit. Yeah, exactly that. I'm really interested to know, like, this. I'm interested in this, like, state versus prison kind of thing. The difference between them. What is, in your experience, what is the difference between like state and federal?
Okay, let me say this. State and federal prison is this. Like, you'll hear a lot of people think it's federal prison soft and stuff like that. No, that's not true. What happens, you get more incidents that happen in state prison, but they're petty incidents. You know what I mean? When something happens in the federal penitentiaries, it's serious. You know what I mean? I mean, if you really want to do it hypothetically, you could do it like this. Okay. Every state has their worst state prison where they hold the worst guys from that state. Ours used to be called the Cut. It was in Jessup. Okay. So Jessup Cut had the worst prisoners in Maryland, right? Worst people in Maryland were in Jessup Cut. Now, the worst people in the United States of America are in the federal penitentiary, and that includes that not just the United States of America. We're talking about people where you're from. We're talking, over there in the UK. I've met gangsters and all from over there. Canada, obviously Mexico. You know what I mean? Just all different places. These are your worst of the worst. You know what I mean? These are your biggest criminal. And the money's totally different. It's just like, the state prison, you don't see as much money. I mean, you're in the federal prison. Like, look, have you ever heard of the guy Willie Falcone? He's a drug lord. I think he got out of prison now. He was with cigarette boats and all down in Miami, the Cuban guy. Well, this is
Yes, I've heard of it.
okay. Well, Jimmy Coonan, I believe Jimmy Coonan told me this story. This is back when Willie Falcone first gets locked up. They're in Lewisburg. So Willie Falcone hits the compound. The warden comes down to Willie Falcone while Willie Falcone's out there with everybody and tries to put his chest out and tells Falcone, hey, listen, I know you're worth $6 billion. I said billion, not million. The warden told him, look, I know you're worth $6 billion, so don't act up. I got my eye on you. Willie Falcone looked at the warden and said, man, I don't know where you get your information from, sir. I'm only worth $2 billion. Dude, so you got people like that. And listen, I'm talking $2 billion in 1990 or whatever. You understand what I'm saying? People nowadays don't even have too big. Those are the type of people that you could wind up around. And, but it's where would I rather do time? Most like federal. Because, you meet a bunch of different people from different walks of life. You can network better. You find out the real stories. And you see all the lost souls, man. You know what I mean? The guys sitting there with the life sentences, never getting out. It's just crazy.
It's nuts, is it? So you think that the federal, as a rule, is more dangerous than the state?
Yeah. You're not, listen, in the state you can get away with a lot of things. Like the state, you can walk around being a rapist. You know what I mean? Things like that. It's just there's not a lot of the paperwork stuff and everything like that. And even besides all them points, like I said, you're mixing seat in the state. Everybody might know somebody because we're all from the same area. So somebody will know somebody to squash this, squash that, squash this. But you're in the feds, you might get a guy from California beefing with a guy from Baltimore. You know what I mean? You might get where I'm from. Listen, where I'm from, we don't, and I want to say myself included, because I'm out of that. I'm almost 50 years old, but we don't give a shit about a Serrano. We don't care. You know what I mean? You think black dudes, these black kids from the actual hood, care about a Serrano? No. Just like the mob stuff. Just like when you get in there, the mob stuff. Do you really think for a second, dude, that they're doing certain people now that the Serranos go hard no matter what. So that would be a real clash. But with the mob guys and stuff like that, it's them guys are extorting old men and businessmen and legitimate guys and stuff like that. They weren't going down into Harlem and going into Queens and telling Fat Cat, Kenneth Supreme, and them guys to pay them. They would have got, man, get out of here. They would have got extorted, to be honest with you.
Well,
So when you get in there, the titles don't matter. None of the titles matter. So, but anything, dude. Listen, I seen somebody kill somebody in a state pre-release, arguing over a jailhouse job. This little white guy. Look, that's why I said you can get hurt anywhere. This little white dude was arguing with this other dude about a jailhouse job. Both of them have been down 15 years or whatever. They're both going home in however many months. The little white dude goes to go to sleep. Them little hard stools with the wooden thing with the green thing or whatever. When he went to sleep, the black dude smacked him in his head with it, and he died. And this was pre-release.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? This is back when it was called BPRU, Baltimore Pre-Release Unit. So this was pre-release, and so I've seen things happen anywhere. So I can't. You got
Crazy,
dangerous
man.
people everywhere. You got,
Right. This is a hypothetical scenario. Well, I'm sure actually this isn't. I'm sure many people have gone through this. So me or an average kind of guy out there who would be terrified of going into either the state or the federal prison or jail itself or whatever. We're sitting on this bus, right, going to either the state or the feds. We've committed maybe a DUI. So we're not hardened criminals. We're not. We've just made a really stupid, fucked up
right.
mistake, and then we end up in prison. Terrified, sat on this bus. What advice would you give to that person who's about to kind of enter the dragon's lair type of thing?
Stop drinking and driving. No.
Hindsight's not allowed.
No. Basically this, man. Basically this. Don't believe all the hype. There's always going to be people in there that are going to try the people they think are weaker. But like honestly, like there's been like the people that hung with me and stuff like that. Like, as long as they're not no weirdos or anything like that, like there's people in there like me and stuff. Like, now you're talking about county jail or prison. See, county jail is just up in the air. You know what I mean? Because county jail could be anything. Well, I'm talking about actual prison. If you would get there and like you're in a federal prison, everything's cool. You're cool. Your paperwork's good, everything like that. You wouldn't be in no penitentiary. You know what I mean? So you'd be like the FCIs. Yeah, you'd be a little bit leery, stuff like that. Don't go calling people out of their name. Don't call anybody a bitch. Tell them don't make no weird jokes. None of that kind of stuff. And you will meet people who would school you. Like just like I'm the type of person like I've had friends like you've probably seen comments on here like the younger dudes who came in stuff like that. I school these dudes. I don't. Hey man, stay away from this. Now look. If a person don't listen, that's on them. You know what I mean? You don't have to get involved in gangs. You don't have to do that because there is people around that aren't going to let just anything happen. Because that's just not. People still got like a conscience. Like when I heard about that guy said that story about Vincent Giattino getting extorted and while he was in diapers and all that kind of stuff. That had nothing to do with me being in prison or anything like that. As a man, if I see somebody out here bullying an 80-year-old man, I'm going to get into it. You understand? So like people don't like bullies. You know what I mean? People don't like bullies. And somebody would be, you'd be okay. You're a nice guy.
So the average. No, thank you. I don't know that might not go in my favor. I guess.
You know
what?
Think
it
would go in my favor? A lot of times it will, and the reason why it will is because man. You get guys just like myself that have been sitting in there, and we're sick of all this shit. We're, that's a breath of fresh air. Somebody who's not coming in with the, that's a breath of fresh air. Honestly, just a normal person, man. Not trying to be something they're not. It's just like the same out here. But like I said, you would get them people that which might try this that. But if you're in a structured place, you'd be okay. You'd be okay.
Yeah, okay. So the type of crime that, say somebody came into the prison who had offences against a child.
Oh, yeah. What do you mean?
What would happen to them?
No. I mean, you can get tricked too, man, because there was a time that I was locked up with a guy and I didn't find out that until I came home. And I looked this guy up as soon as I came home because I heard something. Had people look the guy up on the street. Nobody found nothing. I came home, looked him up, nothing. Then just like a month or two ago, when I looked the guy up again, just do it. Yeah, I seen. Yeah, the guy was messed up, but he had good paperwork for whatever crimes he was in there for, or whatever. But no, man, no. Anybody hurts children, man, no, hell no. You know what I'm saying?
So they would get What would? So they would get dealt with in a violent way.
100%.
But by you?
Yeah.
Would you feel obligated to do it?
I mean, look. I wouldn't want to get, murder. I've smacked them up before. Yeah, I've smacked them dudes up and shit like that. Now I haven't killed none of them. You know what I mean? But like, if it's in a penitentiary, okay, I'll tell you like this. I seen a situation in the pen. There was a guy. He was I actually wasn't there when it happened, but I got there right around the same time, and everybody still talk about it. There was a guy. He was a DEA agent, but a crooked one. Okay, they wound up sending him to Big Sandy. So he was there for however long or whatever. He's an old man, probably 75 years old. That came out that he was an ex-DEA agent. they caught him in that little corridor walking up the steps or whatever. They stabbed him about 60 times, man.
Wow.
Yeah.
You survive?
Nobody's ever died in prison that I know of. Like they'll never let you. You know what I'm saying? Like when somebody really gets killed in prison, they take them to the outside and then declare them. You know what I mean? For some reason, but I don't know if the guy survived or not. You know, but
So cooperators. So if somebody enters into the prison who's a cooperator, are they just as bad in the con's eyes as
nah. See,
someone who's got crime against women? Or
well, no. Basically, this. They're like different cars have different rules. Like some cars, like if they find out, like say the Muslims, you know, and I'm not saying everywhere or something like that, but like I'm just using an example. So some of them might find out that one of them cooperated or something before, and they'll walk them up. You know what I mean? They might not beat them up, they might not stab them. They just walk them up, make them go to PC. They can't stay on the yard. Other cars, they're going to stab the hell out of them. The
okay.
Serranos,
Luck of the draw.
Serranos are going to stab everything. You know what I mean? They're not,
Really?
you know.
Right.
So it's the white guys. Usually, yeah, you're going to get that knife. You know what I mean? The white guys, you're going to get that knife. A lot of black dudes, Baltimore, you're going to get that knife. But different cars do different things. You know what I mean? So but no, look, do I think, 100% of the time, you're getting that knife if you're fucking with kids. You understand what I'm saying? I don't think there's no walking up for that. You know,
No.
I've
Or
never
women's
seen it.
persona.
Right. So,
But
I mean, in my
women
eyes,
as well.
what's worse? A child molester.
Yeah.
A child molester is worse. You know what I mean? Because even though somebody told or something, even like the people who've told on me or told on me in the past or whatever, like at the end of the day, I kind of caused that myself by breaking the law and breaking the law with them. You know, if you're hurting an innocent child, you know, come on.
Kids are innocent. Yeah, 100%. So on the other end of the spectrum, what are the most kind of well-respected crimes, if there is such a thing in prison?
Organized crime. I mean, it's all crime, drug dealing, you know what I mean? Like, it depends on the generations, you know what I mean? It depends on who it is. Like, you know, like from my experiences and the levels I've been with Coke, like I've never been huge, but I've been mid-level, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. So like kids from the hood and stuff like that would look up to me quicker than they would look up to like a John Gotti Jr. You understand what I'm saying? But now, if you're from New York in that area, they would look up to him. You know what I mean? So it's all different, But as long as you're just normal, like a lot of the guys in there, like you get guys in there that are like, people like, like the Jimmy Coonans. You get the guys in the books. But to be honest with you, real people who are really from the streets is really not impressive. You know what I mean? Like I know people by the time they were 18 years old had more bodies than the whole Gambino crime family did in 5 years. You know what I mean? Kids from the projects. You know what I mean? So it's not impressive to a person who's actually from the streets, and nor is me. I'm not impressive to them either. You know what I mean? Because they've seen people getting hundreds of kilos, stuff like that. So,
would you say that the streets, or certainly where you were from or operating in back in the day, was more dangerous than prison for you?
I mean, yeah. I mean, the streets, they got guns. They got guns. I mean, I'm going to be able to handle myself. Look, against a bullet, nobody's going to be able to handle herself. But I'm a pretty big dude, especially when I was younger. You know what I mean? 250 pounds, 6'2". I'm scratch. So I mean, I believe I got a better chance of surviving the knife attack than I do the gun attack. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but
I know what you mean.
You try to stay out of all that thing. The streets now are more dangerous than ever.
Really?
Yeah, and that's because the streets now have no there's no structure to it. Like innocent people, like old ladies, women. You see these guys walking down in New York, just punching ladies in the face on the side. Like we didn't do that shit. You know what I mean? We didn't do nothing like that. Come on, it's the world's gone crazy. So yeah, the streets is very dangerous, especially nowadays.
That's fucked up. So the prison. So there's different. Is there different gangs, like you said, the Serranos and I guess the Aryan Brotherhood is the white prison gang, right?
No. See, when you say the Aryan Brotherhood, Everybody always says that. That's not the prison gang. Okay, that's the brand. The California AB
That's the
is the
brand.
brand. Okay, that's not even a white power gang. That's not a white power gang. They wear the clover, not the swastika. Okay, now you have other white gangs. You have SAC. They're based from Utah. Soldiers Aryan Culture, I think, is what they're called. You got the ACs. That's the Aryan Circle. You got the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas. You got a bunch of white gangs now. Now, do they get along? It depends. No, you never know what time it is. You know, like the ABTs, they'll beef with people from the brand. Usually with the brand, from my experience, I've never even met one of the ABs, like the brand or whatever, because usually they kept them in ADX. Okay. Now, you would see in the penitentiaries, you might see Nazi low riders and stuff like that. That's like their little farm system that, like, you had to earn your way into that gang, which probably all gangs you got to, but like that one was a little bit more stricter. But like people get it confused. They'll say Aryan Brotherhood and put it all under one thing. And it's just not even that. It's not even right. The brand is the brand. I think the Aryan Brotherhood of Texas now, the ABTs, I don't think that they get along with them at times. So it's all, like I said, it's all like a movie. It's all like a show. That's it.
So are these prison gangs in both the state and the feds?
When I was in state prison, now we do got a gang now, a white gang, I guess, but it's like mixed race too, like DMI or something like that. I got a lot of friends who are in that and stuff like that, who joined that. That's from Maryland or whatever. I've been accused of being in it, I swear to God, I didn't even know it existed. But I know some of them guys in that and stuff. I didn't see it. I didn't see it when you got to remember I was in state prison in the '90s, so I did see like from out of towners, like New York guys who came down to Hagerstown and stuff. They'd be like Crips and Bloods, stuff like that. And the BGF, Black Gorilla Family, that's big where I'm from or whatever. But I never really looked at that as a gang. You know what I mean? Because now it's look. Now where I'm from, now it's this. Every white guy is in DMI. Every black guy is in BGF or in a Crip or in this. And now look, and here's the thing I'll say. I'll talk about my age group because I'm almost 50. We didn't have that. But nowadays, these younger guys that are coming in, even from here, even from Baltimore, stuff like that, they're actually being born into the gang life now. Because it actually infiltrated. Wow. So now these kids, like, I can't say they're faking because they're actually born into it. Because I'm generations away from them. I'm almost 50 years old. So they're being born into this, which sucks. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, what's happening now is federal prosecutors are going out and they're using the RICO Act. It's really against big organized crime, and they're putting it on these little kids, these smaller gangs and stuff. But it's their fault for doing a bunch of violent stuff too. But at the end of the day, now you got a bunch of people sitting there. They ain't got $10,000, $20,000 between them. And look, a federal attorney is if you're really going to fight and shit like that, you need to start at least $300,000, $400,000. You know what I mean? That just is what it is. Anything else is basically a dump truck because you got to have all the resources. So you got these kids now who can't afford the lawyers, so they're getting life sentences by using a RICO.
So unless you've got big bucks, you're screwed.
You're still screwed with the big bucks too.
Screwed.
They print the money. That's the big look. I've seen people on YouTube. I see people everywhere. Oh, this one's got money. This one's got that. What did I just tell you? Willie Falcone was worth $2 billion back in 1990, and his ass sat in federal prison for 30 years. He had more money than Oprah Winfrey. You see what I'm saying? So come on, he's got Donald Trump money. And look what's happening to Donald Trump. Look, they print the money. The feds don't care. Now, state cases, yeah, you could buy your way in and out of them. But that's a little tricky too. You got the lawyers doing a lot of seedy shit.
So if we're an average guy is in the state prison with the gangs around, so would, say, a white guy be able to sort of wander around and chat to a black guy or a Crip or a Blood or sit with them at the table, or is that kind of accepted?
Well, okay, look, in the penitentiaries, like you're talking about in the chow hall? Or just like hanging.
Well, just anywhere.
Nah, see, now in the chow hall, they got sections. Like white sit here, this black sit here, this car sits here, Ohio sits here, this one sits here. So no, you don't do that in the chow hall. But like, nah, listen, dude, like I sit here, I gamble, I play poker, I hang out with black dudes in fantasy football. I'm into sports, things like that. So now it's like, but now you can't look. But I don't claim to be something. You understand? I don't claim. Look, and everybody knows how I am. I'm not a racist. I didn't grow up like that. I'm white. You see what I'm saying? But look, I'm not a racist. It's just like how the West Coast guys, how they'll hang around a lot of they're cool with the Mexican guys. Okay. Well, I grew up with black people. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not going to sit here and I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm something I'm not. But see, that's the thing. You can't portray it ever, because see, that's where these guys mess up. They'll come in and act like, yeah, bro, I'm this, I'm that. And then they're caught hanging out with a black guy or a guy of another race. Then they get beat up and stabbed because they were faking. You understand? But like, as long as you're who you are, man, you're just who you are.
Have you ever seen a member of another race sit with another race at the chow hall in your 12, 16 years in prison?
Yeah.
What happened? Was that accepted then?
Yeah, well, see, you're talking about penitentiary. Penitentiary. I think I might have seen I think I might have seen it once or twice, but I mean, in the FCIs and stuff like that, and in Schuylkill, there was a lot of people from Baltimore, so we had a big table, and then the white guys had a big table. So some days I would go sit with my homies or whatever, sit there and eat. But see, it wasn't like I was just sitting there. I taught whoever I might. If I'm walking to the chow hall with my buddy from Baltimore, KG or whatever, and we walk in, I'm going to sit at that table. If I'm walking to the chow hall with old man Tony or something, you know what I mean? I'm going to go sit at that table. You understand what I'm saying? So no, there wasn't big issues with that.
You were saying you've told a story about on a prison bus where you went to one of the prisons. And was it over half of the bus decided to put themselves in protective custody? So is it just as easy as that? So if say I or an average guy was terrified, you could just say, "Hey, I just want to go in protective custody, and I can just do my." Well, is it as easy as to do that?
Well, here's the thing: them guys might have had situations they might have been in gangs, Okay, so in other words, say I'm a paisa, you know what I mean? And the Serranos are on this yard, and the Serranos and the Paisas are beefing. The Paisa's not going to want to go on that yard, so they got a reason to go to protective custody. Or say a guy's a high-profile rat, with the Whitey Bulger thing, they did that on purpose to him. You know what I mean? They knew what they were doing. So yeah, so there's different situations, but I don't know. I've never, I've just always went on the yard, so I don't know how they actually come about that.
What about if someone? I'm sure this has happened. If somebody goes into prison and they become a bookie, and then they lose a load of money, and then they just say, "Hey, I'm going into protective custody," and I don't have to pay it.
They do it all the time. Listen, when I used to play the tickets, right? I used to hit big. I was good. Now I used to play a 4, 5, 6. I do a 4-pick, 5-pick, 6-pick. It'd be the same 4 pictures, add 1 to it, same 5-pick, add 1 to it. And I put the max bet on it. So I've hit that a few times, but every time I hit it, I would have to stay up all night to make sure I'm up as soon as the doors hit in the morning, so that I could cut them off so they can't go check in or whatever. Because I would be like this, I'm this type of person. If I hit them for too much, or usually when I hit big, a lot of people have hit stuff like that. So I would usually, if the situation that never happened to me, but I've seen it happen to people. I've seen them do it. They get their cup of coffee, and you'll see they'll be secure the compound. You look out the window, you see the bookie walk into the shoe. You know what I mean? He's taking his cup of coffee, he's gone. But I'm the type of person. If I would have been in that, I would have cut them off and been like, "Look, you can just take your time to pay me." You know what I'm saying? Because sometimes guys just go, they freak out about stuff, man. And you got some guys who are assholes and you want trouble and stuff. But I mean, if you just see a guy, he's really an honest guy and he's trying to run his shit right, and he just got crushed and it's just in above his head, give the guy a chance, man. All right, have him give you a little bit, whatever, let him work. No need for violence. You know what I'm saying? Come on. Taking the fun out of it. Christ, you stole some tomatoes and onions, and you just came up with $600. Don't cry. You know what I mean? If he gives you 300, it was worth that tomato and onion. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get you. So what you're saying, reading between the lines of what you're saying here, is if somebody goes to prison, just don't be a dick, and basically, and watch what you're saying, and just you should be okay.
Don't join a gang. listen, if you're
Don't
not
join a
in a
gang.
gang and you're not involved in that kind of stuff, don't join it. You don't have to be there. You don't have to be in that. You know what I mean?
So they force you? Do the gangs try to force you to join?
Yeah, but you don't have to.
You just say no.
Yeah, just say no. Just say no.
Sorry, mate. I'm busy with other things.
I mean, look, you're just trying to do your time and go home. But now, like, you're talking, like, there's differences, man. Like, you get into some of the penitentiaries, they get these young guys, they make them do certain things, you know, they make them put work in and stuff, and it's sad, you know. But, like, I'm just talking about a regular person going to regular jail, prison, or whatever. Like, nah, you don't got to get in all that.
No. Did you fear for your life in prison?
No.
Not at all? Never?
No, like dying of, like, a heart attack or something like that, yeah. But not, like, getting killed, no.
No. So let's talk about the Mafia in prison. You mentioned them a little bit. So they weren't like a powerful organisation in prison. They were just like a bunch of old sort of dudes wandering around betting and spreading rumours about each other all day.
Let me say this: as a whole, I look at them as they're the softest. And the reason why is, like, you'll see it on the thing. They've been in prison 30, 40 years. They've been model inmates and all that kind of stuff. Like I said, it doesn't make sense to me. You'll shoot your best friend in the head out here, but you're scared to steal a tomato in there once you already got a life sentence, which don't make sense. But now look, there is some guys, man, that are around that and in that are tough. Tommy Karate's co-defendant, I was with him. Vinny Giattino, Kojak, tough old man. He's still 70. He's in his 70s, big fat. I seen him wear a dude out with a lock. He's an alpha. You know what I mean? He's Mark Reiter. A lot of these guys, Tony. A lot of these guys, they're tough. They're tough older men. You know what I mean? Jimmy Coonan and stuff. Now, like, obviously they can't do physically, like, you know what I mean? But they still, they're not getting messed with or anything like that. It's just with the mob stuff. It's mainly gossip girls, man. It's the gossiping. I've seen this. Look, here's my take on it. The actual associates that from the mob that I've been around have been more stand up and more tougher than the made guys that I've been around.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, did you look up to any of these guys?
No. I mean, like, I respected like the older guys. Like, I respect like Tony. I respect Tony to this day. I respect Jimmy. I used to argue with Jimmy Coonan, and like, I thought he was just a bitter old bastard. But then, over the years, everything that he was saying, man, is actually happening. Like, the guy was like smart, but like, you think he's like nuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I mean, it's just the same way. Listen, man, look, I'm going to respect you. I'm going to respect you as much. It's the same way as I'm going to respect Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? It's the same. What is why wouldn't I? You know what I mean? There's no, now I would rather fight you than fight Mike Tyson. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day,
good choice.
But at the end of the day, it's like I'm going to respect everybody the same, man. Like, you know what I mean? You're a man. I've learned this in life. I've learned to look at everybody's perspective, not just your own. I don't care how rich you are.
Yeah.
I don't care where you're from. I don't care what race you are. I don't care none of that. All of us are dealing with some type of bad issues. We're all dealing with the same problems. We're all dealing with cancer. Somebody close to us has died of cancer. Somebody's got cancer. Somebody's just kids. We're all dealing with certain things, and all of us have that in common, no matter if we're different, whatever. So, I learned to look at life through other people's perspectives also. And that came with maturity. You know what I mean? That's came with being around different people, just things that happened in my life also.
That's emotional intelligence. Did you have emotional intelligence when you were younger?
No. I didn't care.
So it's a more recent thing.
Well, I look at it like this. If I'm sitting here at 48 years old thinking the same way that I thought when I was 20 years old, I just wasted 28 years there. You know what I mean? So, I mean, you do mature and you do think about things, and that's the way I look at things. I look at other people's perspectives, how they feel about certain stuff,
Yeah. Stanford's underboss, Frank Martinez, you got on well with him, didn't you?
I was in with him and Allenwood. Yeah, he was okay. He was okay. I mean, I wasn't like he was like a bitter dude or whatever like that. You know what I mean? He wasn't like somebody like to hang out, joke around, play cards or nothing. You know, he was on the unit with Kojak's with Kojak, Tommy Karate's co-defender, whatever. I was cooler with Kojak. You know what I mean? Because he's more my type. You know what I mean? He's more of a street. You know, he gambled. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. You know, talk shit. I mean, the guy Frank was cool, but like he's doing life sentences. Like, some of these people, their heads messed up, dude. Like, their
Yeah.
heads messed up.
Did they ever talk about like their times on the streets with you?
Mm. Oh, Kojak, like, telling different stories. Not like, but nobody sits down and talks about killing people and all that kind of stuff. We talk about different restaurants. You know what I mean? Funny stuff. You know what I mean? Like, hey, how they sit in this restaurant, he ate so much he started sweating. Just funny,
Yeah.
just regular stories, man. Because it's like when you're sitting there, nobody wants to, go back, go back and forth. Like,
No,
nobody cares.
I get
That's
that.
what everybody's in prison for. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, can you tell us a few stories about your times with the mobsters and any that you haven't told on other platforms or your own?
About like with let me see with mobsters. Well, okay. I guess you could say, okay, Mark Reiter. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, well, he's not a mob, but he basically is. You know what I mean? He's close.
Yeah.
Like I had a situation with Mark. This was really before I knew him. Well, Mark had a big ticket. Mark had like the same thing I had going on, a big ticket on the yard. His was actually bigger than mine because this was a Schuylkill, and I just got there and I hooked up with Larry. So like I said, these guys been locked up like 20 years, so they're out of touch. They're out of touch with reality on the street. They don't know about all the internet stuff and everything like that. Well, I gambled on the street. Me and my buddies gambled. So I read that book from Tim Donaghy or whatever, the basketball referee who went to federal prison.
Okay.
Okay, so and I paid attention to something in his book. He said that they really weren't fixing the games, but they would they would know when the referees were announced what referee crew it was. That's how they would know if the game was going to go over or under the total. Because if you had a referee crew that calls a bunch of fouls, it's going to go over the total because the clock stops. Free throws are more higher percentage than just a regular shot. Now if you had another crew that don't call the fouls, it's harder to score. So I figured this. So now they put out we have to put our tickets out at around lunchtime over here on the Eastern Standard Time. So that would be like it's only 9 o'clock out west, out in Vegas. So the actual real referees don't get announced until the afternoon out there. So we're putting out our tickets with like say over under totals might be say it's 206, okay? But now when they announce the referees 3 hours later, it's a certain crew of referees. Now the over under the line goes up to like 216. So that's a 10-point advantage. You know? Now, so what I would do was I would have my friends wait until 3 o'clock air time, which would be 12 o'clock when it gets announced, and email me the actual lines, the real lines. So I'd come out after 4 o'clock count, boom, I look it up, I'd see all the differences and stuff like that, and I just start putting in. I'd put bets in on Mark's ticket, so I knew his runner and everything. So I was getting the commission and everything. I was cracking Mark. I was only playing over unders. I was cracking Mark probably for about $500 a night, man. All his take in plus some of his money, and this was going on for like a month. You know what I mean? There's some nights I hit him really hard. I put Larry onto it too, my partner. We were in the cell one night, and like I said, we had our own ticket. And he's listening to the West Coast game, and it's late. It's like Golden State against Phoenix or something. So he's sitting here huffing and puffing. Like I say, he's older guys. I was like, "What's wrong, Larry?" He's like, "If this game goes over, if it goes over, we're gonna lose like $200." I said, "Okay." I said, "Yeah, cool. If the game goes over, I'm going to hit Mark for 500." You know what I mean? So he's like, "What are you doing?" So what happens is I'm doing this every night to Mark. So all of a sudden, Mark's cocky, mob guy, alpha male guy, he acts like it ain't nothing, but believe me, it's something. You know what I mean? It's something. So I'm sitting there football's. We're about to watch football on like a Saturday or Sunday. I'm in my unit. Next thing you know, I hear these dudes come. They're like, E. So I'm sitting there about there. What's up? Somebody's outside for you. I said, man, tell them go away. I'll see them next movie with her. They're like, nah, it's the King of New York. I said, who? They're like, the King of New York. That's what they would call Mark Reiter because they say that movie was made after him or whatever, right? So I'm like, oh, Christ, what's this? So I come walking outside. He's like, E. I'm like, yeah. So he comes up. He shakes my hand. This is the first time we've seen each other. This is the first time we ever met formally. Shakes my hand. He's like, okay, hey, I'm Mark. He's like, and, he did the mob shit to me. He's like, so what are you doing? I was like, excuse me? He's like, what are you doing? I know something's up. I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, every night. You got me up. And then he's like, I'm 60 years old or whatever. He's like, I'm 60 something years old. I got to sit up till 2 in the morning and listen to these damn games. Praying that it doesn't go. And every time it works against me. And he's like, oh, you're playing. I said, man, I'm just guessing. You know what I mean? I said, I'm just guessing. He's like, no, there's something more too, right? So anyway, then he told me, he's like, well, I don't want you betting on my ticket anymore. So I was like, all right. So I had to respect that, and I didn't bet on his ticket. But then I did tell Mark, once me and Mark became cool or whatever, I told him, I was like, look, man, I said, here's what's happening. I was like, but if you want to gamble yourself, you can use it. I said, but you really can't do nothing about it because we got to put our tickets out, and you'd be changing the hell out of your ticket, if you. But yeah, but like with Mark, Tony, we've been at. Tony was my celly. Tony Aiello was my celly. He was a cool dude. You know what I mean? He was in there. I was in there when they messed him up on the operation. But yeah, not really many. I've seen just like regular stuff with them guys. They're just regular inmates. You know what I mean?
Are you still in contact with any of them now? Do they write to you?
No.
Do you write to them?
People call me. Like people have called me. You know what I mean? And I like say somebody calls me and they're in a prison where they're at or whatever. Like what you call it, like, and plus my buddies, I still got friends that are in federal prison. You know what I mean? Like my one buddy just came home. He was just in there with Tony's son, Ace Aiello. You know what I mean? They all worked out together. See, because like, especially with that type of like with my generation, the mob guys like my age and stuff, they're more kind of like us, like how we were. You know what I mean? They're not all in the suits and stuff. They're more like dressed like us. Like the type of cars all the same. So like, if we get into places and stuff like that, we actually do got certain things in common. You know what I mean? Plus, they were drug dealers. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like yeah. That's where the money's at. Was at. You know what I mean? Let's just be real. That's where the money was at. You know what I mean?
What was Tommy Karate like?
I wasn't around him. I was around his co-defendant. I was around Kojak.
Okay.
I was around Kojak. I don't know Tommy. I don't know him. He was in another jail, McCrary or something. But Kojak's the one. I'll tell you what happened with him. He's probably in his mid-70s by now, and he's real big and fat. But he's still a tough old guy, man. His cellie was fighting, so his cellie was like my age, like my size too. So his cellie goes in the cell to fight this kid over the TV or whatever. So the kid starts getting the best of Kojak's cellie. Kojak took his fat ass in there with a lock and a sock. He got in that shit. He wore that kid out. I ain't gonna lie. So you know what I mean. So look, and he's had a few incidents. You know what I mean. I've seen, look. Some of them guys get down. You know what I mean. I've seen some of them guys get down. Like my one buddy in there. Another guy was he was a motorcycle guy though. I used to hang with a lot. Junior Napoli from the Breed in Pennsylvania. There's a gangland thing on him. Like he like took over the chapter or whatever, stuff like that. He was in there. He was doing 36 years. He's a cool dude. So there's all kind of different type of people, but like, all the stuff's just all the same. It's all jail shit. You know what I mean?
Do you did you spend? You mentioned one there, but did you spend any or know of any of the other kind of notorious or well-known people in prison?
I've been in there with like all kind of like well-known people. Like I was locked up with Beanie Sigel, the rapper. You know what I mean? Like there's been rappers in there.
Right.
Steve Warshak. He's the one who did that Smiling Bob, the Enzite thing. He actually created Fathead. You know them fatheads they put on your wall that they used to put on the wall, the football players and all. He actually created that. A little quick story about him. We were in Gilmer together. Now, he was kind of stuck up because GQ magazine came there to interview him or whatever and did this big thing on him. So, you know, he kind of thought he's better than people. And he was cool and everything like that. So, like, all kind of different people would hang in my cell. So, he's in my cell one night. So, we're sitting there. I think I was drinking. See, he's like this. So, they offered him, okay, here's what he did. He sold the Fat Egg Company or whatever, and he started them, you know, them boner pills or whatever. Now, here's the crime that he committed. When you order the boner pills or whatever, and then they don't work, and then you cancel your order or whatever, he would keep hitting the credit card. So he stole millions of dollars. They offered him 4 years. 4 years. He took it to trial and got 25. So I asked him, right? I said, Steve, I said, let me ask you this. I was like, why wouldn't you just take the 4 years? So he's sitting there in front of everybody, says, well, because I could never sit there and look my children in the face and tell them that I'm a criminal. I said, yeah. I said, now you can look your grandchildren in the face and tell them you're a fucking idiot. You know what I mean? Right? I mean, come on, man. He's taking a shot at the criminals. But I mean, it was stupid. Take the 4 years. You stole millions. You know what I mean? You stole it. You got, you know.
He's probably scared. He's probably scared to do the 4 years and had like an amazing, the best kind of lawyers and things like that.
Greed. They don't want to forfeit nothing. That's why Tony. That's why Tony's doing life plus 40 years in prison. He would have been out, 20 some years ago, 30 years ago, almost. Basically, what happened with him was he went on the run when the Pizza Connection thing came down. He went on the run, so he was on the run for a few years. Now, at the time that he was on the run, they passed that law where the feds can confiscate all your property and stuff like that automatically. You know, make you forfeit all your stuff. So when he wound up getting caught, they wanted him to forfeit his stuff, and they were going to give him, I think, like 15 years. And he's got to sign a forfeiture to all his properties and all. He didn't want to do that. Thought that he could win. He went to trial. He lost all his shit anyway, and he got life plus 40 years. So it's greed a lot of times, man. Like with the Warshak thing, it was greed. So he wasn't.
It's all about the money.
Yeah, you know, they took millions of dollars. But I mean, they're going to do that anyway. You know what I mean? They're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you know if these mob guys that you were in prison with, do they know that they're being talked about on sort of this thing called YouTube and social media?
Yeah. I'm not going to put any names out there because I don't want to, you know, these people get investigated all because they get, you know, for having a phone or, you know, whatever. But I know this for a fact. That they watch Jeff Nadeau's show. I know that made guys in there watch. I know that for a fact. And then they like it. They like his show.
They enjoy it. Wow.
Yeah. The ones that I know. The ones that I know. You know what I mean? It was two of them.
Do they have access? They must have access to like a computer or something. Oh yeah.
Did you hear what I just said?
And things like that. Yeah, I did hear what you said. Yeah. Obviously, look on their phones.
I'll tell you another thing though, Rob. That it's cool for them. They used to have this newsletter. Jerry Capisci wrote it. Gangland. It's called Gangland.
Right. Yeah.
They would get that in there and they pass it around. Like they'd act like they didn't read it. One would take it up to the other one. They read it. You know what I mean? See, I'd be in the cell with them all while they're See, the ones that I was around were cool. You know what I mean? Like Tony, the Coonans, my buddy Pete, stuff like that. You know, they were mostly associates, so they get it. They read it. They look at this jerk off, and you know, they talking about it. Yeah, but like they do.
Sounds like you can make a movie out of these this little mafia prison guys.
Yeah,
It sounds really funny. Grumpy old men.
Yes, 100%.
Can I just a few questions sort of actually, let's go to when you left prison. How did the world and you how had you changed when you left your when did you last come out of prison?
Well, okay, when I came out of my big federal bid, I came out. That was like a little shocking, like because I did over 10 years straight, and I went in 2003 and I didn't come out till 2014. So like I didn't know what a smartphone was, none of that kind of stuff. So I started doing residential appraisals and stuff like that, got my real estate license, everything like that. So I don't have a hard time like making it in society. But what happened to me was this. I wound up going back to federal prison because I was going down in 2018. I was going to the MMA fights down the arena, down in Baltimore arena. So my buddy was under investigation. I wasn't even under investigation. My buddy calls me, his phone's tapped, and he's like, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "I'm going down to fights." I was like, I'm with Stacy. That was my girlfriend at the time. I was like, I'm going down to fights down the arena. He's like, oh, cool. I might stop down. I'm like, well, if you stop down, make sure you bring your girl. Look, I really meant for him to bring his girl because I didn't want him showing up with just some random girl and my girlfriend thinking that I go out and do that too. You know what I mean? It's just a headache. You know what I mean? Plus, you'd be a third wheel anyway. Well, like I said, he was under investigation. The feds wound up raiding us like a few months later. I just got back from Vegas, and they didn't find nothing or anything like that. But they actually indicted me for that conversation and said that the word girl meant cocaine. They didn't even find
No.
nothing. They came in, Homeland Security, X-rayed the walls, all that shit. Didn't find nothing, and I wound up getting 3.5 years in prison for that. I went to feds.
They stitched you up on that one.
Yeah, it's just yeah. So I got out on that on New Year's Eve of 22, and I've been out ever since. Well, I had a little hiccup last year. Was something that somebody stole money from me. Okay, I do like I'll middleman a lot of deals and stuff like that, like with home remodeling and things like that, and in the real estate industry and stuff up here. So we had done some big jobs, and I had a bunch of cash that I had to put in banks, and I also had to pay my workers because I'll pay the guys who work for me instead because I'm only getting paid a third, and a third. But like a lot of times they had to feed their family, stuff like that. So I'll pay them all their money up front, you know. So I got to pay my workers and stuff. I stopped at this house. I put the cash down. Somebody stole it from me. I wound up catching up to them. When I catch up to them, I get most of it back. Not all of it either. They still got a nice chunk of it. And then they wound up pressing charges on me for robbery. They said that they were in a hotel with $50,000 cash, like a seedy hotel with 50,000 cash on them. They don't even have a job. There's no way to, you know what I mean? The police didn't even care. They just went and put a warrant out on me. So they wouldn't give me a bail. So I had to sit in there. I got one of the best lawyers in Maryland, and still had to sit in there like 4 months. Waiting for my court date, and if I didn't have a good lawyer, I'd still be sitting there now. It would take about 1.5 years to get to trial. You know what I mean? But my lawyer made sure he circumvented around all the bullshit, here, first trial date, we're not postponed. We're going, and then they had to just throw the whole case out because it was a lie. But yeah, I still had to, you know what I mean? But yeah, so
Sure.
like getting back into things, like I've never had a problem against society. Like, I'm not like that. Like, I know how some guys are, but nah. I'm not
No.
institutionalized.
You seem the guy that would just adapt to any environment. Like I guess in your childhood you had to, but
Right.
adapt to any environment that life throws you.
Well, I'll say this about myself. And this is like to even like, like I'm not even this type of person anymore. But like, if I get into something with somebody, like a beef with somebody, I always have the advantage because I have no comfort zone. I have none. I have none. Look, like I said, I've grown up sleeping on floors. I've been in damn mini mansions. I've dated B-list celebrity type chicks. You know what I'm saying? I've been poor. I've been broke. I've been locked up, not had a penny. I've had 2 weeks later, I had hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars. So yeah, I don't have a comfort zone. You know what I mean?
No.
So
One of the things I really wanted to ask you, I think you mentioned this on I think it was with Jeff. You went to Florida and you were with a girlfriend who I believe went to university.
Florida Atlantic, yes,
Yeah, and then you sat in on some of the lectures.
yes, yeah. I did that. I did that because I got an eighth grade education, and what I did was, the first time that I ever did it, she's like, just come to school with me, or whatever for that day or whatever. So I walked in there. It's just like a big auditorium, you know what I mean? Like the class, I thought it would be like a regular class, you know what I mean? I didn't know no different. So I started going, like when she would go to school, I go to different classes. Like I would sit in on like the guy they were talking about like public speaking, broadcast communications, things like that. So yeah, I would sit in and like I just basically try to educate myself. You know what I mean? Just from being around different type of people and things like that. Like because I learned one thing also in dealing with people, and this isn't all business and everything. You don't want to be confrontational. You know what I mean? Nobody, like that's why I like with the tattoos and stuff like that. Like I like my tattoos and all, but like that's kind of like big white guy, bald head tattoos. But then it works for I'm not going to lie, it works for my advantage too because everybody thinks I'm a big dumb thug. You know what I mean? So it actually works to my advantage too. But like, you know, I tried to at least do that, like at least educate myself that way. And like I said, when I was down there, I was around different walks of life. You know, I learned a lot about different people.
So you said you educated yourself in that sense and you enjoyed it. Why don't you go to university for real?
You do realize I was on the run.
No, I mean now. I mean nowadays,
I'm
like
50.
right now.
I'm 50 years old,
So what?
and I wouldn't. I my take now. I don't believe in college now. Like I wouldn't go to college now. Like I just think it's too much. Like it's too political. You know what I mean? It's too political. Too much like you know with all the stuff teach. Like it's not like real life stuff. You know what I mean? It's like I think a person's smarter just like the actually just learning to get into real estate and stuff, learning what a mortgage rate is. You know, see, they don't teach you that kind of stuff in school. They don't, when I was a kid, they don't teach you, you know, how many kids are going to be a scientist. You know what I mean? So why don't they teach you how to balance a checkbook? Why don't they tell you what an interest rate is? Why don't they tell you, you know what I mean, what PMI is? What you know what I mean? Certain things that you're going to need in life. You know, need to learn in life. You know, they don't teach
Yeah,
you.
no, that's fair enough. I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Have you ever suffered from like police corruption?
Oh, 100%, 100%.
Could-
There's corrupt cops. Listen, that's been going on. It's been coming to light lately because of all the cameras and stuff like that the last few years and all. That has been going on forever. I've been robbed by cops. Um, I was coming to, like I told you in that one raid, I had $27,000 ready to write $6,000 down. They keep the money. Um, I've had cops. I've had cops, you know, just do bad shit. Now I've never had them plant like no evidence or nothing like that on me. I've never had them do that and then get me locked up or nothing like that. I've never had them do that, but I've had them like rob me. You know what I mean? They do a lot. Yeah, there's a ton of crooked cops. I mean, I've seen them down around here. You know, sometimes see here's the thing with them, they don't know what they want to be. Like you're a cop, stay the hell out of the streets, you know. Like they'll get, look, I've got cops around here, and what's happened with me now, it's not happening right this minute, but like in my time I've always done well with women, you know what I mean. I've always pulled chicks and stuff like that. So you get these cops that will be around my age now, they want to come around and they want to date these women and stuff like that, then they'll hate me. They'll just have a hate me. You know what I mean? Like I remember one time, this is years ago. Now the cop's dead. Now he wound up ODing and died. He was a scumbag. He's a dirty cop. Anyway, so I came back from Florida or whatever. I pull up to this McDonald's and there's this girl standing in the parking lot that I used to mess with or talk to or whatever. She's still cool with me or whatever. So the cop's standing there with her. I'm like, she's like, hey Eric. I'm like, hey, what's up? She tells me about it later. He's like, how do you know him? She's like, oh, I used to date him or whatever. And he's like, that. And from that point on, this guy fucking, he harassed me. He did all kind of shit, man. He tried to put bogus charges on me. He did all kind of stuff. But like I said, he's dead. You know what I mean? He's dead. He's not no hero. He died at 30 years old of a heart attack. Get the hell out of here. He OD'd. He OD'd. That's what he did because he was a scumbag. You know what I mean? So they do that a lot, man. They'll like just get on you, you know. Just but like some of them for the most part don't, you know. But like, yeah, that's been going on forever. Police corruption, yeah, 100%.
Do you think the prison system's working? Is it reforming
No,
criminals?
no, it's
No.
not. It's not designed for that. It's not designed for that. It's designed for modern day slavery. Listen, okay, at Gilmer, they got Unicorn. They pay these guys probably whatever, uh, $5 a day, let's just call it or whatever, right? You know what these guys do? They fix the Hummers and stuff like that the military's using. These are $60, $70 an hour jobs that they're paying them $5 a day to do. At Big Sandy, you know what they do there? They make all their uniforms like for being in the, you know, whatever the army people wear and stuff like that. They sew them all there. These are $60 an hour jobs that they're paying these people $5 a day for. You understand?
Yeah.
Schuylkill, all your office furniture for the government buildings, all that's what they do there. You see what I'm saying? It's slave labor. That's why people don't understand. Like when the politics come down, like they get mad at certain politicians and all, like, and think they're going to let them out and stuff. Why would listen? If I was invested in prison, like the prison commissary, they got this coffee. It's like it's in a yellow bag. It's like this Juan Valdez. It's called Keefy Coffee. Man, it's some good coffee. I'm not gonna lie. It's man, I love it. I like it better than anything out here or anything, right? But you know who owns Keefy? George Bush's wife. Yeah, so they got the commissary
Right.
contracts. They got all this. That's why they want, you got these different politicians. That's why they're going to keep you locked up. If I was invested in the prison, I'd keep people locked up too. That's what people got to understand. No, it's not about rehabilitation. It's about slave labor. That's what it is, modern day
Right.
slavery.
Interesting. Um, let's have a discussion about Whitey Bulger. And you've got an interesting perspective on here, haven't you? Because you know somebody that was involved with his murder. And I think it was yesterday, three guys
Yeah.
who were involved in his murder actually have taken a plea. And I watched your YouTube um, video on this on your channel, and I found your take on it, like I've done with Trump and a number of others, very very interesting. Can you give your kind of synopsis on the Whitey Bulger affair?
Okay, what I believe it. Okay, basically, okay. So from what I've seen this far, okay, and especially yesterday, okay, when these plea bargains came out. Now they haven't released the details yet, but they had the guy. There was three guys. You got Freddie, Paulie. I knew Paulie and his brother Johnny. I don't know Freddie. And they had this kid watching the door. This kid McKinnon or something. Anyway, now the kid watching the door. Let me explain something to you. I don't care if you're just watching the door. If you know about anything like this and these murders happen, you're going to get life in prison. I know people who got life in federal prison for watching the door, not even throwing a punch. So his mother actually came out and made a statement. His mom came out and made a statement and said that she was very happy and he was happy. And they're thinking that because he had already been released and then got rearrested. They're thinking that he can get a sentence to about 2 years, the time that he's already done on this case, which would be a very favorable plea bargain. Now, Freddie already had life. Paulie was getting out in 2026. So Paulie's not going to take no crazy plea bargain either. And he's been in the feds before, so he knows, he's been in the feds a while, so he knows what a C plea is, where he'd be capped out. So my thing is this. Why are they offering them what looks like very favorable plea deals after Whitey Bulger's family had sued and got the case dismissed? Reason I believe is this, because if it went to trial, now a defense lawyer, if I was a defense lawyer, I would call whoever's in Grand Prairie, Texas, who designated Whitey Bulger to Hazleton Prison. I would call in their superiors and find out why they sent him there. Because listen, I don't care if Freddie, Paulie, and the other kid weren't there. It could have been me, you, and somebody else. Everybody knows this. Whitey Bulger was going to get murdered. Look, everybody in prison, they know the rules. Somebody was going to have to do it, or else it would happen to them. That's the rules. Point blank, period. The director of the BOP, everybody in the BOP, the COs, everybody knows this. They have many other places they could have put Whitey Bulger. Okay? Say they didn't want him in Coleman 2 anymore, which is a PC yard. They could have put him in ADX. ADX is PC. That's PC. Even though they hold bad people there and all, it's PC. Just like lockup. When you go to lockup, you might be on this side and look across the hall. This guy's on PC. You guys are in the same situation, just you're on lockup, they're on PC. So with that being said, look, they did that to Bulger on purpose, and I don't know what he had on them, but it had to be serious because they don't. One thing about the feds, they don't want to hear about any dirty feds. That's the thing, and they don't want anybody spilling the beans on them. They want to be the cream of the crop. Now they love locking up cops. They love locking up state level police and all that kind of stuff, politicians, everything like that. But them themselves, like real quick, Gas Pipe Casso, back when he was
Yeah.
when he was cooperating or whatever, they had some deal like 20 some years for him, maybe 20 years, but he messed up. He sat there and he told something about Sammy Gravana that the feds covered up. One of his crimes, before, they're supposed to disclose his crimes before he's a witness or whatever, which was kind of a big deal. But then the real big deal was this. He had a dirty fed. He knew, he was telling them, look, he told them the mob cops or whatever, the regular cops. Then he said he's got a dirty fed. They told him, no, you don't. He's like, yes, I do. Now, he wasn't the most intelligent guy, book smart, stuff like that. He's just a street smart guy. So he would mess up names, stuff like that. So what they did was he would not let it go that he had a dirty Fed. They ripped up his agreement, gave him 6 life sentences, and sent him on his way. And then went and got Burt Kaplan off of the compound of Gilmer to come and testify on the mob cops. And everybody went. So the feds got their way anyway. But they don't want to hear that any of them are dirty. And I'm telling you, something like that is going on with the Whitey Bulger situation.
Those feds are law into themselves, aren't they?
Hey, listen, I can't stand them. They're scumbags, right? But they're the cream of the crop, dude. Like, it's something you don't want to play with. You know what I mean? United States of America versus you're going to be on the short end of the stick. You know, I mean, you've seen what they done. I mean, look what they did to Saddam Hussein. Didn't the UN say, you can't go over there, there's no weapons of mass destruction? What did George Bush do? Hold my beer, watch this. Went over there, hung him, fucking built a McDonald's, took his gold toilet, killed his sons, you know.
Took his gold toilet.
I'm not playing with them people. You know what I mean? I'm not. Listen, no. You don't want no trouble. You know what I mean? So something went on with that. Yeah, something.
I've got to say, if anyone, there's loads of these stories on Eric's channel. You've got to go and check it out. It's fascinating. Not only do you do those type of mob vids, you also do sports, boxing, politics. It's like a full kind of breadth of different subjects, isn't it? It's fascinating. Yeah. I think the channel's brilliant, mate.
Thank you.
And it's only gonna get bigger. You've got like over 100 videos now, haven't you? So
yeah,
growing.
Yeah, I'm about to do one on the hypocrisy of the mob. Rules for thee, not for me.
Look forward to that one as well. Rules for thee, not for me. Yeah, that'd be a really interesting one. Yeah. Talking about the mob, let's have a look. What's your view on this mob genre that you've? I don't know if you're in at the moment, but you certainly comment on it. What's your view on it? Like the mobtube.
Have you ever seen South Park? The cartoon.
Mr. Hanky the Christmas poo. I remember that one.
I think that they need to do a South Park episode on it. You know what I mean? It's just funny. I mean, look, you got a guy. Look, like okay, you got guys like who come on here and stuff, and I respect certain guys. Like I like guys like you. I like guys like Nadu. Look, guys who don't sit here and say, look, you guys will get your information, you'll do your research, you'll try to bring the best that you can. You know what I mean? Like I've had Jeff, he's, you know, when things get into like, if he's got a question about some prison stuff or whatever, he's reached out to me. You know what I mean? So I do know that the guy does, you know, he does his due diligence, you know. Now you get these other guys on here, like you had a guy last year or whatever. Some guy called himself Danny Trio or something. He was with the old man Lee Cole or whatever. This guy was on there pretending to be a mobster, and he was like got locked up for like sniffing underwear or something like that. Something weird, breaking in the house, sniffing underwear. The guy Lee Cole, he's a goof. Like went down there and approached Sammy the Bull and got punched by his son. Like there's just like crazy stuff. Then you got a guy like Sammy the Bull, underboss of the Gambino crime family, at one time sitting here threatening to sexually assault Jeff Nadu. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't understand it. You know what I mean? I don't understand it. It's crazy. Yeah, I'm going to do something on that too, man. But yeah, South Park. Yeah. South Park needs to get a hold of this.
You maybe think, what the hell am I doing? I just need to step away from this madness.
Listen, like I said, it's a breath of fresh air, man, when you see like certain people, like, you know, because here's the thing. Like I've even said this to Jeff, and like it accounts for you too. See, I'd rather hear certain type of perspectives, like from guys like you, and from him, because you don't got no bias. You understand? Like I can't listen. I can't even say that about myself. I'm going to have some bias because I'm a street guy. You understand what I'm saying? I try not to. Listen, I try not to. But like, yeah, of course I'm going to have some bias. There might be somebody I don't want to say something. You know what I mean? Like I'm going to, because I've been in the streets and stuff like that. But like, with guys like you guys, listen, you guys got no bias. And as long as you do your research and you try to give the facts as best as you know, I don't see how people have problems with it. But the rest, listen, it's like a clown show, man. You haven't seen, I mean, come on. Come on.
It is entertaining, I'll give you that.
Yes.
There's this, as you, I think you've even done videos on that on your channel. There's this bit, and I don't think I'd ever heard of the word rat before, I got, because we would use something like in the UK like grass or snitch, or things like that. But the word rat is banded about left, right, and centre by these people that were involved in the life or still involved in the life, whatever, on mobtube. What is a rat to you? What is the definition of a rat?
The reason why it's called a rat is this, because a rat will chew its own tail off. Like a real rat will chew its own tail off to get away, you know? So a rat to me is something like this. Like, these guys, look, if we go out and we get in trouble and stuff like that, we're committing crimes and all, and, you know, you get caught, you know the consequences, and you tell on people and stuff like that. Yeah, you're a rat. You're trying to save your ass. My only problem with the guys, like I said, I look at other people's perspectives now. A lot of these guys were facing life sentences, death penalties, things like that. So, you know, I try not to even, you know, delve into that, you know, because a lot of people make comments on it. Look, like the Lee Coles of the world. Lee Cole, come on, dude. If Lee Cole was facing 5 years in prison, he's telling everything, you know, and he's out here calling guys rats that were in the mob. You know what I mean? Come on. The buddy, he was doing a show with him. He's locked up for sniffing underwear. Come on. You know, so you can't call these, you know, and I don't mean to blast Lee Cole, but whatever. But at the end of the day, you know, that's the thing. Here's the problem I have. I have problems with a guy like a Sammy Gravana that sits here and instead of just saying, hey, listen, I just didn't want to do the rest of my life in prison. Instead of just saying that, he has to sit here and bash John Gotti. It's John's fault. He was going to rattle me. He's going to. No, it's not. You didn't want to do life in prison, dude. That's all it was. You didn't want to go to prison. That's why you told. Simple as that. So, yeah, so they, you know, and you got these guys, they'll, you know, some people say, oh, this one platforms rats and this and that. Look, guys are journalists. Look, where do you think the stories come from? Especially in that mob stuff and all. Like, and then they move the goalposts, like with the guy John Gotti Jr. thing. Look, man, the guy sat down. If you're going to take their narrative and say, well, nobody went to prison, then that means that John Aiello did not rat on John Gotti Jr. He actually helped him because nobody believed his testimony. You know what I'm saying? But they called John Aiello a rat, which he did rat on him. You know what I mean? But like at the end of the day, so did John Gotti Jr. You know what I mean? Which, look, I'm not even blasting him either. You know, I don't know what was going through his head, you know, and things wound up working out for him anyway. He wound up going to trial, getting a hung jury, and he moved on with his life. And I just think a lot of times these people who keep doing that, like, I honestly think, like, in his situation, he'd wish that his own family and stuff would shut up about it. You know what I mean? Because nobody's even thinking about it. That would have went away by now. All that stuff would have went away by now. But, you know, they keep defending it and stuff. Like, it don't make sense.
Because that brings us on to proffers, and I've watched stuff on you when you essentially say that proffers, they don't stay between the four walls. When someone speaks to the feds, the Queen of the Day, the feds will take that and then potentially start investigations on other people.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't they? You know, I mean, I would, yeah. You know, and look, we don't know if that's what happened, but listen, look. Most likely what happened with him, he went over there, he was going through whatever situation he was going through. He wanted to make a deal with them. He was facing the death penalty. He probably gave them whatever information. They came back with a number he didn't like. Okay, we'll cap you out at 25 years. He probably said, fuck that, I'll take my chances at trial, and he did, and it worked out for him. You know, but now if they would have came back with 5 years, would he have, you know, you understand what I'm saying? Would he have went in somewhere, raised his hand on somebody, you know? You know, so we don't know what happened, but like, that's the most likely scenario.
For somebody who's never cooperated yourself, would you consider going on anybody's show on here who has cooperated in the past?
Yeah, I don't care.
Yeah, you're cool with that.
I don't care. Mind. I listen. Like I said, look, I'm almost 50 years old. I'm not in criminal lifestyle anymore. And at the end of the day, every person's situation is their situation. You know what I mean? What do you think when I sit down in a restaurant or I'm at a bar hanging out with people, if I wind up shooting somebody or somebody gets shot and I'm involved, you think these people aren't going to tell on me? What am I going to do? Just ostracize myself from the world? I mean, like Joey Merlino went on Vlad TV. Vlad got Rick Ross arrested or Rick Ross's friends arrested when they beat him up. You know what I mean? But like, no, it's like, that doesn't, like I said, I look at people's personalities and I look at what's going on. Like I said, I can't judge their situations. I don't know what the whole thing is, you know?
Would you say that Joe Molino's a rat?
No. No.
No, because there's some school of thought which is that
No,
he's on here
listen, I'm kind
talking,
of
and that's,
listen. I think it's pretty fair what he's doing, and like what I mean by that is this: you're not supposed to come out and talk about it, whatever. But he did come out with a sports show. Let's be real. He came out with a sports show. That's what it was about: sports betting and stuff. And Francisi or whatever, hey, come on into the mob, John. You're an idiot. Why would you do that? You know what I mean? This guy don't want to hear the word mob, probably. And then you're sitting here. You know how he feels about people. Look, I can't tell Joey Merlino how to feel. You see what I'm saying? He feels a certain type of way. Like I feel a certain type of way. Like I don't care. I don't care. I'll watch Michael Franci. I don't care. Joey Merlino feels the complete opposite. So you can't get mad at him. And no, I think it's fair to a point is because you're only getting stories, and he's really not telling the real mob stories because he can't. He don't have the immunity or whatever. But like
yeah,
you're only getting one-sided stories. All the stories was from rats and police officers. So
yeah.
what Joey's done
Well,
now, he's not a rat. Hell no.
his betting, so because he, like you say, he came on and he started giving tips.
He
Him and Snuff
sucks.
giving
He's
tips.
terrible. That's why he needs that kid.
I was going to
Snuff.
say, I've got this. I think anyone go and watch them and then just bet on the opposite of what these guys suggest, and I reckon there's a good chance you'll make a small fortune.
Yeah, Joey's horrible. That's why he's got that kid Snuff with him. I think Snuff's a little bit better than Joey. Yeah.
Yeah. So your plans for the future. So where do you see yourself in, let's say, 5 years' time? What do you think you'll be doing?
Oh man, this phone's about to die. I only got like 10% left.
That's all right. I've got a couple of more questions. That's it.
I'll stay. I'll stay in real estate. Hopefully make it. In this YouTube stuff. You know what I mean? Like, do a little different kind of stuff. Basically, man, all I want in my life, man, is peace. I just want to relax. I don't want to, I don't want all the drama. I've been through enough. You know what I mean? Enough drama, which I brought on myself. I'm not going to sit there. Oh, but I brought it on myself. I've lived a certain type of way. It's time just to fall back. Like I said, I've changed a lot of perspectives in life. The thing I want to be is what's been hard for me is I want to be. I got 2 daughters. They're grown. You know what I mean? Got a decent relationship with them and everything, but at the end of the day, I wasn't a good father. I don't think any man who's been in prison is a good father because unless you're in there for protecting your kids or something. But like if you're in there for selling drugs, you're not a good father. So I wasn't a good father. I've never been married. I've dated a lot of women, stuff like that. Kind of been close or whatever. But like just kind of I want to be a better person. Like I like all this stuff. Like I'll hear like people like if I tell a story on here, people be like, "Oh, that's cap." Listen, I haven't even told no real stories on here. You know what I mean? Like, but that stuff has came easy to me my whole life. All that stuff that people like look up to and glorify, that gangster shit, that's just been easy. You know what I mean? It's nothing. You know what I mean? Nothing to me. But like I just want to be a better person, be a good person, and be respected that way. And as long as I can get there, man, I'll be happy.
You've got a book in you. Do you think you write one?
I actually want to do a B movie, like kind of like a B movie.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, I don't know how, I know a couple people have done stuff like that, but yeah, I kind of want to go further into this kind of like I see like certain things now. I do pay attention to certain things, and I know if I get with the right people, I know certain things can blow up. You know what I mean? Because people actually like hearing reality. What the real situations are.
They certainly do. Watch this space then. So, message to young or old people that are thinking about that this life's glamorous that you led. What would your advice to them be?
It's not glamorous. There's nothing glamorous about it. You gotta realize something. You gotta realize I've lost all the best years of my life. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, 22. I went to state prison 22, got out when I was 26, went back when I was 26. Let's just call it 27. Didn't get out till I was 38. Went back in when I was 42 and didn't get out till I was, 45, 46. Yeah, all my best years, you know what I mean? Gone. You know what I mean? You can't never get that back. You know what I'm saying? You can't never get that back. No, and especially nowadays, there's no more money in this shit. There's not money in criminal lifestyle anymore. It's no money in America, really. It's all been suctioned out, So it's like, you know, you're better off working and stuff like that. I've noticed that in life. I'll tell kids this. Here's the thing. Why not to fall on to worry about all that shit? Because it's all going to be here. It's all going to be the same people doing the same shit and getting nowhere when you're involved in that type of life. I've sat here, I've went away for over a decade. Got out. Same day I got out, I'm in the same bars as these people who are doing the same shit. You know what I mean? That's it. It never goes away. It never goes away. So you're not missing nothing. You know what I mean? When you're not involved in them scenes, they're not accomplishing nothing. You know, so you don't even want to be involved with that. You know.
So it's safe to say if you had your time again, you do a lot of things differently.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just comes. Look, man, it comes from circumstances, and like I said, you can't totally blame your circumstance. But I had a federal judge that she said, what did she say? She's like, she said to me, "Oh, what is wrong with our system?" And it offended me. It offended me, and here's why it offended me. Because I look at it like this: me and her aren't from the same system. If she was from my system, she would be shooting dope and selling herself, probably. If I was from her system, I'd probably be president of the United States of America. You know, it's just facts. You know, it's just so we're not from the same systems. You know, but it's just like, you know, you like I said, but everybody, no matter what system you're from, everything like that, everybody's dealing with issues. Everybody's, you know, so everybody should just learn to respect everybody and, you know, look at things from all perspectives. You know.
Amen to that. So where can people find you, Eric?
Just go on YouTube, Standing on Business with Eric FOSS. Or if you just Google my name, Eric FOSS, real easy, EricFoss. If you put that on you, if you go on YouTube search bar, type Eric FOSS, my channel will pop up.
I'll put it in the description box as well. Anybody out there watching this, go and subscribe, watch his videos. You've got a wide range of videos, and they're all fascinating. He's got an insight into things that I've learned a lot from. So keep doing what you're doing, mate, and look forward to seeing where your channel goes.
Okay. All right, cool. So we're good.
Yes, thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for having me, Rob.
Really appreciate your time, buddy, and speak to you again soon, hopefully.
Okay, yeah, definitely.
Take care, mate.